Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of corporate professional, and I'm my. I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to our chief guest of honor, learned speakers, and all our participants. Friends, corporate professionals strongly believe in sharing of knowledge and has been regularly engaged in knowledge sharing with fellow professionals. In April 2020, when COVID-19, the global pandemic, brought business to a standstill, corporate professional thought of an innovative method of sharing knowledge by organizing its first webinar on 28th April 2020. Heartened by the massive response and encouraging feedback, we decided to organize these webinars every week, and during the past 20 months, we organized 74 webinars on relevant for corporate and professionals. This would not have been possible without your participation in large number, and we are indeed thankful to all our participants, those who have come in big numbers. We also wish to thank all the regulators who very kindly agreed to accept our invitation and address the participants and intended and interacted with them. I wish to particularly acknowledge the support which we received from the senior officials from MCA, SEBI, IFSCA, IBBI, Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, CBDT, and several other regulatory organizations. Their support and confidence in us become a source of great strength for us. Finally, our endeavor could not have been possible without the untiring support which we have received from industry leaders, as well as the experts from multiple fields who, despite of their busy schedules and professional commitment, who grace our webinars and share their invaluable knowledge and experience with other participants. It is therefore a momentous occasion for us and a great honor for me to be hosting the Diamond Jubilee webinar, that is 75th webinar of corporate professional. To mark this historic moment, we are privileged to have with us galaxy of personalities to be our chief guest of honor, and speakers. I extend a hearty welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Manmohan Juneja. Mr. Manmohan Juneja is BCom Gold Medalist and fellow member of ICAI. After practicing his CA, he joined MCA in 1993 and has worked since worked in many capabilities, including RD, ROC, Director Inspection and Investigation. Presently, OSD performing all function of DGCA and senior most position in the Indian Companies of Service. He has been a key person in MCA 21 projects, drafting of rules under Companies Act 2013 and drafting of CARO. Presently, also he is a chairman of Compliance Reduction Committee of MCA. I welcome Manmohan Juneja sir for this program. Charge as Executive Director in SEBI on December 9, 2019. Prior to this, Sri Sundaresan was working as Chief General Manager. He has more than 30 years of vast experience in development, regulation, and protection of interests of investors in securities market and has worked in various departments in SEBI. Mr. Sundaresan has been a member of various SEBI and inter-regulatory committee, a graduate in commerce. Mr. Sundaresan holds post-graduation in finance and human resources and a degree in law. He is also certified associate member of Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. I welcome Sundaresan sir for this program, and your support is innumerable for these types of webinars. Then we have Mr. Jeevan Sonpatre. Mr. Jeevan is a BA Economics and MBA Finance. He joined SEBI in 1995 and presently Chief General Manager BA and CFD. He has very extensive and versatile experience of working in several departments of SEBI. From 2013-19, he has been given the responsibility of the office of the Chief Public Information Officer and Parliament Question and Adjudication Officer. So I welcome all our guests of honor and chief guests for this program. And then we have a galaxy of speakers, and I will take liberty not to introduce the detail. Akhil Prasad, who is a director of Boeing. Then we have Amit Gupta. He is PCS and Insolvency Professional, Amit Gupta Associate. Then we have Anjali Agrawal, Partner, Corporate Professional, Capital Market Service. Ankit Singhi, Head Corporate Affairs and Compliance, Corporate Professional. Mr. Murli, General Counsel and Company Secretary, Nestle. Mr. Shanmugam, Company Secretary, Hinduja Leland Finance Group. Then Mr. GP Madan, Founder, Law Officer and M&A Task Force. Then Ms. Geetka Anand, Vice President, Company Secretary of Adit Birla Fashion and Retail Company Limited. Then we have Mr. Girish Joshi, Chief Trading Officer, Operations and Listing Sales, BSC Limited. Then we have Mr. G.N. Gupta, Executive Director, SEBI, and founder of Stakeholders Empowerment Service Proxy Advisory Firm. We have Mr. Dr. K.S. Ravichandran, who is a practicing KSR and Company Secretary. Manoj Kumar, Partner, M&A and Transaction Advisory of Corporate Professional. Mr. Narayan Shankar, Company Secretary and Compliance Officer of Mahindra & Mahindra. Mr. Parvati Sam, K. Parvati Sam, Chief Legal Officer in CS Tata Steel. Then Mr. Pradeep Ramakrishnan from SEBI and Ms. Priya Subramanian from NSC. Rajendra Chopra, Company Secretary, Cipla. Rajendra Singhi, the Executive Vice President and Company Secretary of ITC Limited. Then Mr. Rajiv Chaube, who is the Chief Legal Officer and Company Secretary, ACC Limited. Ms. Savitri Parekh, Company Secretary and Compliance Officer, Reliance Industry. Mr. Sudhakar, Vice President, Corporate Secretarial, Reliance Industry. So friends, the galaxy of speakers are there, and you can understand these are the people who are day and night doing work related to these areas. And we have all type of people, those who are indulged in the various corporate related issues. And today we will try to get their wisdom and knowledge through our questionnaire with this. All of them are so widely admired personalities that they are hardly require any formal introduction. That's why I have given the initial things. It is indeed a matter of pride for us to have you with us today. Your support, guidance keep us motivating, taking forward our knowledge sharing initiative with more vigor. Thank you very much for you to taking out time and helping us in our endeavor whenever we approached you. And now I will just share with you our journey of 74 webinars in last 21 months in a very crisp manner. Friends, this is our 75th. My screen is visible. My screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this 75th Diamond Jubilee webinar on Q&A, friends. This webinar is 75th. It's a very remarkable things which we have achieved, and we are feeling proud with you all that we have completed with your support. Now, friends, as you are aware that knowledge is an integral part of corporate professional, and we always try to do that how we become a knowledge-based organization and undertake and encourage research and share our knowledge, whatever we have gained. The last 21 months, we have organized 74 webinars, and this webinar include the webinar on securities law, 26 webinars, security law, 17 on company law, 7 on deals and business related, 5 on taxation, 5 on social issues, 4 on corporate governance, 4 in labor laws, 3 insolvency law and valuation. And first webinar we organized on we organized on 28th April 2020, and after that we continuously organize 73 other webinars on various topics, and these topics are So these were the 74 webinars which we organized, and our statistical data on CP webinars, if you see that there are 80,000 registration we have received, and 1084 was the average registration per webinar. We have done this. Top 5 webinar where we were having a 1500, 2000, 1600, 1500, and 1000, more than 1500 people registered. There was a 145 speakers for all these programs which we have organized, and in this 145, the regulator was there. Various regulator came, ex-regulator came. Then people from industry they came. From industry, various people and the professional from all walks of life, they participated and attended. And this was in-house our team which has participated, and then the other people in the country. Now, what are the impact of these webinars which we have done? First is education and dissemination of the latest updated knowledge. Then clearing the doubts of participants on various issues faced by industry. Connecting the regulator with audience. Deliberation, consultative paper and give feedback to the regulators. Sharing suggestion with the government and regulator on various issues. And developing and sharing knowledge repository in the form of FAQs and videos, which are on the online and YouTube and our website. Promoting and propagating good governance and best practices by these webinars. And friends, it is the object, but what was the outcome of the webinar in the tangible form? We have given suggestion to SEBI on following issues: SEBI Settlement Scheme 2020, we organized program. New SEBI regulation on delisting, we organized program before and after and gave the suggestion. PIT regulation, SEBI provision relating to independent director, reforms in securities law that we have done 50th webinar, and then ESOP, pre and post we have done. FAQ and PIT regulation released by SEBI on 29th April 2020, and Mr. Sundaresan was the person who has done that excellent work. Outcome of the webinar for MCA, we came out with corporate social responsibility and gave suggestions. MCA 21 version, we gave various suggestions. Reforms in company law, we got a suggestion and submitted to the government. Limited liability partnership, they have changed the law, and we have suggested what are the issues in this. Insolvency, before pre-packed insolvency came, we gave suggestions to them and they modified various things in this. Outcome of webinar is we came out the handbook on merger and amalgamation of government company, which we have organized and gave it to the government. CP, so these are the things which was a part of the knowledge through the webinar we have done. CP is doing other work also, like we are giving you the CP Shorts, CP Connect. These are the monthly our newswire. We have a Companies Act BAP, which is free to all the person, and then we have a Companies Act, Company Law Procedure, Insolvency Book, and Valuation Book that we have done. So now, friends, this journey is we are completing 74 webinars journey, but this journey of knowledge sharing will continue, and the entire team CP is dedicated towards this, and our friends to whom we have invited, they always helping us to do this. So now, before further moving to this, I will request Juneja sir, Sundaresan sir, and Jeevan sir that we are coming out with our new book on Companies Act, new edition, and I want that please release this book by Juneja sir, Sundaresan sir, and Jeevan sir. Juneja sir, I will request. I have this book. Yeah. So we have this book with you. So I want that please, Sundaresan sir, Juneja sir, and Jeevan sir. So by your gracious hand of our 3 dignitaries, we are releasing our book, and our dignitaries speakers, they will get this book. We will send it to you. So thank you very much. This is a new release, and rules. So this is in 2 parts: concise commentary and reference. So thank you very much, sir. So all the participants will get, all our dignitaries will get this book. So thank you for releasing this book. Now I will invite our Our chief guest, Mr. Manmohan Juneja, DG of Corporate Affairs, MCA, to deliver and say few words to us or encouragement. Juneja, sir.
Thank you, Pavan. And congratulations to corporate professionals for the 75th webinar. This is a great initiative which you have taken for knowledge sharing. Knowledge is something which, ultimately this has to be spread, and you are doing a marvelous job in this thing. Congratulations to you and your team. And also my sincere gratitude to you for giving this opportunity. I'm seeing so many familiar known faces. Because of COVID, we have not met physically, with many of them, but all are very good friends. I have a very long association with all of you, Rajinder Chopra, GP Madan, Madam Svitri, and many of you, the full list is, all of you are very dear to me. I have a very long association of decades, I can say today, with all of them. And all of them are doing their marvelous job in their respective fields, I'm sure. My sincere, thanks to all of them to joining, they have joined with us today. And thanks to you also. As far as MCA is concerned, of course, looking back, I do remember those days when we were doing everything manually. But today, with the collective effort of all, we always say with the professionals and the government initiatives, today we are giving 10 services at the time of incorporation itself. We have seen this service during our visit to other jurisdictions, particularly Singapore. I do remember in 2006 or 7 when I visited there. So we were very surprised that Singapore was providing 5 services at that point of time, at the time of incorporation itself. And then I presented a paper sometime in 2009 when we had this dream of providing services at the time of incorporation itself. Today, I'm really, this is, we are providing more than what Singapore is providing today. We have reached to that stage. And there is always a constant, sort of balancing between ease of doing business and enforcement. On one hand, a role of MCA is, of course, to provide ease of doing business, and we always say that there is red carpet for those who comply with the law. In a law like Companies Act or LLP, of course, when all these laws are for compliances and there is cost of compliance. It is our constant endeavor to reduce compliances, or at least to facilitate the stakeholders to make compliances. Our e-governance project is basically targeted at that. And of course, all those rules are aligned to this objective only. Very soon, we'll be shifting to the V3 version 3 of MCA 21, where we will be having a lot of value-added services for further easing the process. We'll be using artificial intelligence in a bigger way. We are using enhancing technology. Most of forms which are today are PDF forms will be shifted to web-based form. There will be many services which will be web-based services, so that this process is eased to a great extent. At the same time, we'll be using this technology, even today, when we say that we are a tough regulator as far as for those stakeholders, for those persons who break the law. So we have gone to a great extent in identifying those people who are disqualified. We have flagged them. We have brought them to those issues to logical conclusions. We have struck off about 5 lakh companies which are not, compliant companies. We have a constant fight with shell companies. We have identified attributes of shell companies, and we have rolled out a few SOPs for our officers also to holistically, follow those shell companies and bring all those issues to logical conclusions, and finally to winding up also. Similarly, will be having presently also we have various modules where we can, basically sensing the fraud. I can't say that we can prevent frauds or we can, sensing something, some early warning systems, so that some, things, some actions can be taken well in advance. All these systems are available at the back end, but in the version 3 module, we'll be having some robust artificial intelligence technologies. And then we'll be providing those, it will not be something which remains opaque and used only by the backend. We'll be providing so many vital informations to in the public domain also, so that our stakeholders can also make use of whatever, intelligent reports we do have. On the LLP front, presently certain things which were all focus was there on the companies, but LLP is also coming up in a big way. We have now about, the act was rolled out sometime in 2009, and initially it was meant for only for service sector, but today we have about 2,70,000 or 2,60,000 LLPs which are operative and well doing businesses there. Recently, we have also changed the definition of a small company. So today, out of whatever about 14 lakh active companies we have in the registry, with the new definition, about 10 lakh companies shall be tagged as small companies. The benefit to a small company is in the shape of reduced fee, and the penalties under section 446B are also reduced to the extent not more than 50%, which are otherwise applicable to other companies. Then realizing the, the demand of the stakeholders, we have decriminalized the Companies Act in a larger extent. We have decriminalized 58 sections, which are now only, civil penalties, and those adjudication powers are with registrar of companies only. There is no need to go to the criminal courts for all those petty offenses, and those can be settled at the level of penalties only. Similarly, we have some simplified, it's a constant sort of exercise. We have simplified, and we are further thinking of simplifying the merger processes, so that most of the mergers, and when we say that we have simplified or changed the definition of a small company, it has a cascading effect on the simplified, because large number of our companies are small companies, and section 233 is basically meant for small companies, so they can use the benefits of a fast track merger under section 233. Similarly, compoundings, we have enhanced the powers of original directors, and compoundings of large number of companies can be at the executive level only. So all these are a few steps, which, but of course, this is a continuous process. In the Compliance Burden Committee, we are looking at, and particularly I thank Madam Svitri and few others who are already, you have joined, they have helped me a lot in giving those suggestions in the Compliance Reduction Committee. That was a very, prestigious project of the government to reduce compliances all across all basically ministries and departments, and we were one of those key ministries, and we have reduced the compliances to a larger extent, but the exercise is continuing. I invite further suggestions from members, because that is an ongoing process, and now we are at the second leg or second phase of giving a report on reduction of compliance burden for stakeholders. I invite suggestions from all of you. and I'll be happy to answer, or if there are any queries on this subject, I'll try to answer all those queries. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, giving that what MCA is doing and what is the future plan. Thanks. You're always receptive to accept suggestions. We are grateful to you, sir. Now I will request Mr. Sundareshan, he's the executive director, to say a few words. And he was instrumental to help these webinar and coming out on a tangible benefit like in PIT, FAQ, in SEBI. Mr. Sundareshan, please.
Good evening to all the dignitaries and participants. Congratulations to corporate professionals for achieving this milestone of 75th webinar series. I express my sincere thanks to corporate professionals and particularly to Mr. Pawan Kumar Vijay for inviting me to address the participants on this Diamond Jubilee webinar. This platform is no stranger to me. I have been part of this as a speaker and as a participant, and many of these webinars on topics as diverse as corporate governance, frauds in the Indian securities market, interpretation of PIC regulations, company law related matters, taxation, gold spot exchange, and many more. In fact, when I was browsing through the various webinars organized, of course, Mr. Pawan has already showed that in slides. I was awestruck by the variety and depth both in the topics are covered and in the selection of speakers. Mr. Pawan and his team appear to be a fervent practitioner of the maxim as per our ancient Rig Veda, Ano Bhatra Kartau Yantu Vishwataha, which means let noble thoughts come to us from every side. The maxim simply means that knowledge from a variety of sources is acceptable, nay, desirable. As we all know, since the beginning of 2020, the world has been going through unimaginable difficult times due to this COVID-19. We are not sure whether it is still there, when it is going to go, when it is going to end. But it has taught us a very big lesson for us, that for the human spirit, in terms of the toll taken on the human life, health, mental robustness, and more significantly to human livelihood. Now, despite the pandemic causing unfathomable disruptions, SEBI has been taking various reform measures to develop the securities market and protect the interest of investors. Some of such recent measures include eKYC enabling easier onboarding of investors, Riskometer tool to help investors make better decisions for investments in mutual funds, segregation of client collaterals in order to protect the clients from misutilization by the clearing member or the clearing member, unified payment interface facility for blocking funds for investing in IPOs, reduced time period for listing of issues, and many more. These are all being done in order to further empower the investors. SEBI has also recently issued an investor charter outlining the rights and responsibilities and do's and don'ts for the investors in securities market. The positive results of these measures are for everyone to see. A tremendous number of new investors have joined the markets, and there has been a steep rise in the daily volumes in the capital market. The cumulative demat accounts, which stood at around 3.6 crore as on March 29, were 7.7 crore as at the end of November 2021. What was achieved earlier in over 2 decades has been better in the last about 2.5 years. While the real economy may not be showing a consistently rosy picture, the securities market has been reflecting altogether a very different picture. The value of Nifty and BSE Sensex as on February 3rd was 17,560 and 58,788 respectively, as compared to 7,511 and 25,638 as on March 24, 2020 respectively. Now, the proof of the pudding being in the eating is there for all to see. This could be achieved on the back of significant adoption of technology by market participants, that is investors, issuers, and the intermediaries. seamless client onboarding process through the online KYC, ease of access to markets through internet and mobile-based platforms, availability of education material in easy consumable formats through the internet, etc., have facilitated investments by retail investors in various financial products. The adoption of technology is one of the best demonstrative is this type of webinar, which has been continuously going for last almost 2 years. It's a matter of satisfaction that despite the increase in retail participation, resulting in an increased pressure on the market infrastructure, the systems in place have shown resilience and robustness to cope with the same. This rise in the investor population and volumes and the adoption of technology has posed its own challenges. So we had opportunities, but those opportunities have come with its own challenges. The recent resignation of statutory auditors, independent directors from various listed companies is a matter of serious concern. Certain corporate frauds which have been surfacing from time to time due to casual compliance culture also create negative sentiments. Of late, through websites and social media platforms like WhatsApp, Telegram channel, etc., wrongdoers are spreading false and misleading information about a company and its stock to a large number of people with minimum effort and at a relatively low or no cost. The circulation of such posts is not only detrimental to the interest of the investors, but also adversely affects the integrity of the securities market. Now, these challenges have actually increased the responsibility of not only the regulator, but also all the market participants. There is an imminent need to enhance the standard of compliance, governance, create enough awareness among the investors about the safe investing practices. It is very important for all of us that any investor who wishes to join the capital market shall invest with confidence and with a long-term vision, which can only be possible when the investors are aware and properly informed. Therefore, we as stakeholders in the securities market ecosystem have to work together and evolve ways and means to overcome the challenges and make use of the opportunities. Seminars like these are inestimable value in this regard. Like Mercy, as in Portia's speech in the board, play, knowledge is twice blessed. It blesses the provider as well as the receiver. I can speak with some authority on how I have been benefited from these webinars. This imparting of knowledge has helped me grow both as a professional and as a person. When you are in the position of a disseminator of knowledge, you have to act as responsibly as a guru. This requires preparation and voracious reading on an ongoing basis. I am confident that Mr. Pavan Vijay and his team will continue to carry on this webinar series and benefit all of us. My best wishes to Mr. Pavan and his team for this Diamond Jubilee and advance wishes for the centenary webinar, which is not very far away. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sundaresan sir. Thank you for your nice word for all of us that encourage us to do something new. Thank you very much. And your help and your sharing knowledge and always your position that you want to share knowledge, you want to do something, it is remarkable. Thank you very much, sir. Now I'll request Jeevan Sonpatre, who is the Chief General Manager of SEBI, to say a few words. Jeevan, sir.
Thank you so much, Pawan Kumarji. Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Sundaresan and Mr. Juneja. Again, I would repeat the words that Mr. Sundaresan has said. Thank you for corporate professionals for arranging this seminar, and I congratulate you on the 75th seminar of webinar, and many more to come, I'm sure. I am working, I'm currently handling the portfolio of corporation finance department, so that majorly relates to issues relating to capital raising, restructuring, and compliance by companies. So my some of the takeaways that I would like to leave on the table are some of the activities that SEBI would be either actively engaged in or is already continuing to do in its ordinary course of business. As you would all be aware, the evolution of change, SEBI has always been is believing in change without disruptions. So we continue to our endeavor for investor protection and also develop new and better areas for investors to invest in the securities market, as well as to provide wider avenues for corporations to raise funds as well as to restructure. So most of our endeavors are directed towards this end. Some of the features, some of the areas that we have picked up for better refinement or more work or more focus are something that we picked up from the budget. So as the FM has already announced, the Honorable FM has already made some announcement on the budget. There are 2-3 issues that we have picked up. One is the social sector. So the other issue is ease of doing business. And third, she mentioned something about having a focus on MSME sector. So I'll just give about 1 or 2 areas that we are now going to refocus our efforts on. So coming to the first issue of social stock exchange. So we all know this is a new and novel concept. For the first time anywhere in the world, this particular social stock exchange has been put under umbrella of a securities market regulator. We have had a session with PN Vijay on this event also on this particular topic. So most of you would be aware. So as far as SEBI is concerned, 2021 we already put in place some kind of a structure as to how we want to go ahead and for a social entity who can access the capital. Shortly we will come out with the regulations. So there are various aspects to the regulation. One was regulation at the stock exchange. Then we have something that what is the mode in which a non-profit organization can raise monies. Then the third, how do you audit the social impact that this particular agency is trying to achieve? And moreover, also provide other avenues like mutual funds or AIF structures or social venture funds to be amenable for raising funds on the social stock exchange. So this is again in its nascent stage. We continue to receive views and comments and suggestions on how this would be taken forward, taken forward. So we will look forward to some comments and suggestions from participants here too. And I'm sure as usual, Mr. PN Vijay would take these questions and again refer it to us, the suggestions, and refer it to us, which he has always been doing at the end of every webinar. So this completes what we have on the social stock exchange. Madam FM had mentioned something in the budget about refocusing the efforts on MSME, because we are seeing that this is going to be the biggest driver for employment as well as grassroots level development. While she has mentioned 1 or 2 areas like the raising and accelerating MSME program, what she has acronymed as RAMP. So towards this end, we are now restocking our arsenal on either the SME segment as what she had also mentioned about startups. So we have the IGP that we have for startups and the SME segment that is directed towards MSME issues. So we are going to refocus our efforts. While on SME, we already have a very good success as of now, but we will refocus and try to see whether we can get a better traction. On IGP, where the startup infrastructure, we have tried to provide some kind of a window for allowing startups to raise capital or get their scripts traded on this particular platform. We have not had much traction since the last 2 years. Probably we have amended this regulation 3 times already. But we are open to change. We would like to see that we are aligned with the government's objectives or ensuring that the startup ecosystem is given the required boost. And we would be at the forefront of creating any change in the IGP platform, whatever is need be. The third structuring side, I think we need to, we have received representations from FICCI and some other industry bodies regarding some changes that they would like to have on the buyback regulations that SEBI has. So we are actively engaging with the industry association. Also, we also interacted with some of the corporates. on some of the issues they have raised, mostly relating to whether threshold required for the open market, threshold required for the tender offer route, and also some refinement in the buyback process to the tender route. So those are issues that we are looking for, and I think market can expect some change, some review of the buyback regulations in the coming months. On the third item that is very close to SEBI's heart, and that's why I'm mentioning as last, and also so that it leaves a lasting impression: better disclosure for investors. Especially, we are focusing on better disclosure in the draft offer documents filed with SEBI and which investors consume for their IPO investments. Our focus right now is on the basic document itself, how the first page looks, what is the document, what are the information that is available in the abridged prospectus. People who have invested in the recent past would have noticed that the price advertisement has changed. You will also see a revised front page of the draft offer document, DRHP on the SEBI website in the coming weeks. The point is that we have seen that the the revised page, the revised front page, the front page today of an existing DRHP is crowded with so much of detail that the information which is crucial is crowded out, and essential items which would otherwise get eclipsed, we want to bring that into focus again. So what we have done is we have revamped this front page, and shortly we will be issuing revised instructions on this thing. As regards the abridged prospectus, which is required as per law to be accompanied with the application form, we have revisited that particular document and tried to focus only on presenting information in a very concise manner and dropping information otherwise which may not be so relevant to be in an abridged form. So this is something that we are trying to do to ensure further transparency, consistency, and disclosure across documents, and thus, help investors make an informed and intelligent decision. The fourth area, which I believe now it's run its course, so not so much activity on it, but since we already taken up a project, so we had trying to see whether the special purpose acquisition companies or SPACs, which was the in trend in the last year or so, we had started our work on this, but due to various issues, we could not complete this project. But very soon, by the end of this fiscal, I think we should be able to bring out some kind of a regulation or our idea of how SPACs should work in the Indian domain. It has been a tricky issue to tackle because those SPACs would be something that SEBI has to say, but it will encompass almost 3 to 4 regulators, and it will be very difficult. So it has been a very difficult path for us to navigate through all these regulations and structures to bring to conclusion this particular aspect. But hopefully we will be able to do it by end of this financial year. So these are the 4 or 5 major areas that SEBI would be looking at in the recent future. Thank you so much, and I again wish Mr. P.N. Vijay and corporate professionals team a successful webinars here on as always. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Jeevan sir, for giving a very crisp and futuristic view of the SEBI relating to your department. Thank you very much. Juneja sir, Sundaresan sir, I have received one question for you, which has very
Yes, tell me.
Sir, one question which has come that the decriminalization SEBI, the MC has done.
Mm-hmm.
Some more has to be done, and
Yes.
and then the process of decriminalization through the internal mechanism should be automatic or some mechanism.
No, I'm really thankful to the person who has raised this question. Actually, we are. This is in our back of the mind also. As of today, earlier there were 135 offences in the Companies Act. With the last amendment, we have reduced it to 124. out of 134, 35 are non-compoundable offenses as of now, and 58 are by internal adjudication mechanism, and rest are compoundable offenses. Now, under 58, which are decriminalized offenses, in most of those offenses, there is almost nil discretion with the ROC. In version 3 module of e-governance, we will be having a module of e-adjudication. This will be total and end-to-end paperless process, and we'll sort of give an opportunity, as you know, something called self-declaration, right? Instead of chasing the person who has made some violation, technical violation, there has to be a mechanism where he himself comes and declares his, violation, and then through that e-adjudication module, through a total end-to-end paperless process, automated process, we are trying, and we are finalizing those things, and we'll definitely having a contactless adjudication.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. This is the need. Sundaresan sir, I think Sundaresan sir, one question, because nowadays the IPOs are coming and their valuation is very high and things are happening. Are we, SEBI is planning to do something, or this is open market, investors should be beware?
I think Jeevan will be in a better position to respond.
Okay, Jeevan sir. Sir, in the meantime, Jeevan
Okay.
is joining.
Okay. So let me.
Yeah. So I'm
Can I
asking.
answer or Jeevan is answering?
I think.
Sir, I missed the question, sir. Please, if I'm.
Okay, I'll come back to you, sir. Sundaresan sir, your question is that there are so many companies, our shares price is now freezing without any financial results and financial things. What SEBI is planning to do to control this?
See, as far as this type of companies is concerned, SEBI has put in place different type of margining system and ensuring that the cost of trading or trying to indulge in any sort of manipulation has been increased substantially by this type of margining. Plus, if the audience, some of them may be aware that I have also told in my speech that this social media is causing lot of, what you call insinuations and influencing the people, trying to, make them draw their attention to these scripts, and these people are getting caught in that type of problem. So SEBI has already done one section seizure and exposed how this Telegram channel has been misused or abused at the cost of the investors' interest. So wherever we find that the scripts are not created according to the parameters, and if there is any manipulation, SEBI will examine and appropriate action will be taken. In the last 1 year, SEBI has passed many interim orders, and I can proudly say that none of the orders have been challenged in the SAC on the merits. People might have said that, I should not have been debarred, I should have been given an opportunity, but no one has questioned SEBI's finding or the evidence which SEBI has submitted to the SAC. So that shows that SEBI is alert, and wherever if any investor is finding anything abnormal going on, he is free to complain to us. We will definitely look into that, and wherever necessary, we will take action.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Jeevan sir, the various people are asking questions whether the CMD post division, which is every industry is worried about this. Is it because the deadline is 1st April 2022. So is SEBI planning to extend this, or this will continue to change now?
Thank you, sir, for the question. I think this yes, you are right, sir. It's a big question. And given that this was a very big issue even for corporates, we have been given adequate time and suitable extensions from time to time. So as of now, as things stand, I think the compliance date is nearing and corporates should have been working towards complying with this provision.
Okay. Okay. And what about these issues which are coming out with a hefty premium and going down? Is SEBI planning to do something?
Sir, again, valuation, our chairman has already mentioned time and again that SEBI doesn't look at valuations, don't get into valuations. We don't see valuations when the DRHP or the DRHP is filed with SEBI. So that is point one. What we will always strive to do is get information which is relevant and critical for the investor to take a informed decision. That is our business, and we will continue to strive to get that relevant information to the investors. So let me give you an example. So let's say a new company is coming up for raising money from the capital market and offloading its shares to the investors. So what we are trying to even give today is, which was not available earlier, though it was not so much prominently available earlier, is what is the weighted average cost of acquisition of persons who are trying to sell their shares in the market, or what is the price at which the last round of funding had taken place in the particular company. So that is a benchmark that investors would have to pick up and see or evaluate whether the valuations being sought by the company, is it valid for him to invest in the securities market in that particular script or not. So we will continue to provide relevant and critical information enabling the investor to take a decision. Obviously, we cannot get into valuations. It is not the business of the regulator to get into valuations. So whether it is overvalued or undervalued or at par, that has to be decided by the investor, because it is his perception of his investment in that particular script.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I thank all my guest of honors and chief guests. I'll request them that now we will start question answer session, which we have received from various people. It will be our privilege if you can stay with us, and if you have some other urgent work, then you can log in and log out. We will start now the question answer. Friends, after this very interesting inaugural session where the three regulators has given their mind that what is the future planning they are doing, now we will come to the various questions which we have received. Now I'll just tell you what is the structure we have done. We have done the research in our corporate professional that what are the issues people are facing. We have asked the panelists also that what are your issues which you are facing, and the public also. So we have received questions from all three places. Now the questions which we have asked, the very simple process which we are asking them, that whatever new thing has come in the limelight today and what is happening in near future, say from 1st April, the CMD post division is there, CARO report is there, e-meetings that will be part of the system, and various laws which has changed. IPF law has changed, the transmission law has changed, the RPT law has changed, preferential issue, appointment of MD, LODR, DMAT, the ESG, the governance issue, and some recent issues which has taken place, like one director resigned because she has sold some shares. Then there is one company's 3 directors resigned, independent director, and various other issues where the employees has done the trading. So these are the issues on which we have created some questions. Now the questions, when we have asked the panelists and other people, a very interesting and specific question we have given. You may be expert and you have searched the answer, but this is not possible with everybody. So they have given the questions which are not clear or which has some confusion. So what we will do, we are asking these questions, we will solve their queries through the participants, through our panelists, and then we will submit it to the regulator also, so the regulator can understand that the language or the interpretation which they want to bring out has some problem. So they can come out with some circular, or they can come out with FAQ. So the clarity should be there, and then compliance should be in main front. So friends, we have created this type of questions, and these questions we will ask one by one on the basis of their expertise and their knowledge. So over to the now FAQ, which we are starting, and I'm starting first question from Mr. Rajiv Chaube. Rajiv, you are doing work in the industry, and so many managerial remuneration issues are there. So what is your call? Whether the company can pay more than 5% or 10% on net profit subject to overall limit of 11% to whole-time director, MD and MGR, as the case may be, or by passing a shareholder resolution general meeting without the CG approval. So now there is no need to CG approval, you can pass anything. What is your take on this?
Yes, I think the company can pay. Only thing is that now you'll have to go to the shareholders for approval, and I think it's a special resolution which will be required. So I think it is actually all part of ease of doing business. Earlier we had to go to the central government for approval, which used to take a lot of time, but now it's all between the company and the shareholders.
Okay, Gupta sir, you are on the proxy advisories, always seeing from the lens that what is happening. So something you have to see from lens, and something is visible without putting anything. So what is your overall view and what you want to suggest to the industry? Because you will come in between whenever any resolution is coming.
See, I always say that you don't need to read any law as long as you are working in a fair manner.
Yeah.
The moment you evaluate anything with the perspective that what you would have expected other person to do if you were in his place. So that is a problem. The law is always written after an event has happened most of the time. When something problematic has been examined, then you write the law. So my point is this, that you just see what is fair and what is transparent. You need to look into law only to see whether you can pay 25%, 30% or 40%. But you don't need to read any law. So I always advise the corporate that the first think that what is fair, then you read the law whether it fits into that or not.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Mr. Gupta. I think my answer was only from a legal point of view, that if your shareholders approve, you can pay. But I agree that the remuneration has to be commensurate to the size of the company. The concerned director involved, his experience, what kind of results he has given, what is the remuneration which is proposed. And I'm sure if any such proposal which goes to the shareholders, I think we have the proxy agency and the institutional investors, because we have seen cases where proposal of managerial remuneration was rejected also. So one case which comes to my mind was, while I don't want to take names, but then it's public, was of Tata Motors, and then another was of Eicher Motors, where it was, kind of not approved.
I will add to that, Pawan, because the difference is this, that in today's perspective, the corporate structure is such that very few ordinary resolution can ever be voted out, because the promoters own this thing and they can vote on their own remuneration. There is no chance that resolution can be defeated. As regards the defeated resolutions, the Tata Motors resolution was defeated not because of unfairness. It was defeated because there was a lack of information. The moment they came out with the proper information and disclosure, it was passed by the shareholder. Whereas in Eicher Motors case, there was a different case. But I will tell you, the worst type of resolution get approved, and the best example is Sun TV, where the husband-wife duo are taking more remuneration than the 2,000 employees put together. but that resolution get approved. So that is the situation.
Okay, I just I'll tell all the participant also, because today is no doubt it is our 75th webinar, but there are some board meetings of the result, declaring of result is also on the same time. So some of our speakers they will go log in and log out, and some of the speaker has to go for some other meeting. So my request to those who are here, that some people have to go for their committee meeting and other things. So I'm asking few questions from them first, and then then rest of the question I will ask, because Mr. Gupta ji has also go, Savitri has another committee meeting. So I'm just asking these questions first from these people. Savitri, this is related party. According to section 189 and rule 16, I am competing with you. Okay, because she always tells with section. So according to section 189 rule 16 of MVP rules, every company should maintain a register of contract or arrangement in which directors are interested. Such rules said that entities in the register shall be made at once. This is my specific point, made at once. What is the meaning of made at once mean here?
First of all, congratulations, Pawan, on this Diamond Jubilee of the sessions that you've been conducting. It's really a pleasure to be addressing the audience on this occasion. Coming back to the question of register of contracts, which is covered in Rule 16, as you rightly mentioned. So wherever an entry is required to be made in the register of contracts, that needs to be made at once, which basically means it's with respect to the timing. Now, of course, it's not absolutely simultaneously. The approval of the audit committee happens first, which is an enabling provision that says that we've approved it, you can enter into the contract. And if you actually refer to Rule 16, the term used is contract and not agreement. However, I will not really dwell on the legalities of the term. Suffice it to say that once you enter into a valid agreement with the other party, you're required to make the entry in the register of contracts. And as you know, under section 189, you're required to place this register at every board meeting, and it needs to be signed by all the directors. So here there is no distinction. It's basically confirmation of entries in the register. It has to be authenticated by the company secretary, and it is signed by all the directors. So coming back to your question, made at once over here, within the context of timing, it needs to be made as soon as you enter into the agreement with the party concerned.
Okay. Savitri, another question related to the same related party. Does leave and license arrangement come under the leasing of property of any kind as stipulated in section 188?
So leave and license is not the same as leasing of property. It cannot be equated with lease. Lease has a superior right as compared to leave and license. Leave and license, the term has been very beautifully explained in one of the Supreme Court decisions also of General Radio. And I would say that leave and license is cannot be equated with lease. It's not the same as lease under this particular section 188. It's one of providing of services.
Okay. Rajiv, the top 1,000 listed company as per market capitalization should submit the BRSR, whether the company need to submit BRSR for the annual report for financial year 21-22 or 22-23.
So I think it is mandatory from from the year 23. As far as 22-23 is concerned, it is voluntary. And if a company is prepared, because it is quite extensive, quite detailed. So I think before you report, you need to also do a lot of homework. So if companies are prepared, they can voluntarily do it from this year. Otherwise, legally, it is required from next year.
Okay. Gupta sir, recently there is some issues coming from independent director. And I'm take the PTC Financial Services, that is the one where the 3 independent directors resigned. When the company gave its version, they told differently and they told that this was happening. So is it a real governance issue or it is a just ego issue?
I will ask you a counter question, boss. In any court case, there is a complainant and there is a respondent. Does the respondent ever say, yes, whatever the complainant has said is 100% correct? So in life, you will never find an accuser and accused on the same side of the fence. Here, it is a very simple question that the independent directors have said something. I do not know, you do not know, maybe many of us do not know what is 100% truth. But the fact remains that there can't be smoke without fire. So there is something wrong somewhere, and what is the extent, we do not know. That is one point. The second point is this, that all the independent directors, and what if you read their letter, if you read their communication, it very clearly appeared that they tried to do everything that was possible within their rights to do at the board level and at the company management level. It was only when they were driven to the wall that they had exercised their right to write a resignation letter in an open and transparent manner. It may have 100 words, 1,000 words, or 10,000 words, I do not know, but there is some substance in that. So I would say for the corporate India, or for the governance principle, for the purpose of governance, it is a very good sign. If 10, 20 more independent directors show their spine and exposes the problems that the companies are having, maybe it will do much more wonder to the governance than all the laws put together.
Okay, okay. Madan, recently the director of one company, she resigned because of there is some miscommunication of selling of shares. Now, what is your take on this, which I'll ask Gupta sir also, and what is the compliance officer put a penalty also? So whether compliance officer has a power to put a penalty or this penalty is sufficient, what is your take on?
I think you are not venturing into taking the name of the company and name of the director.
No, I'm not.
No issues. It is the public domain, no issues.
This is
and no marks to anybody for guessing the name of the company and the director.
Again and again, so that's why I'm not taking.
Okay. Now, what has happened in that particular case, on 20th of January 2022, the resignation letter is sent. This resignation letter is effective from 23rd of January. Fine. The company intimates with the exchange after 24 hours. Reasons might be known to the company. On very next day, 22nd of January, company holds a meeting. And as per the directive of the audit committee meeting, a penalty of rupees 2 lakhs is imposed. And further, the company submits this copy of the resignation letter with the stock exchange. And surprisingly, this resignation letter says the reasons. On 21st, when the resignation letter is sent, the resignation letter talks about that I am associated with some academic institutions, certain research activities I am undergoing, and this research activities, during the course of the research activities, I might be meeting some of the financial services companies. So there may be conflict of interest. Now, at what point of time this conflict of interest arose? Was it not there at the time of appointment? Was it came on that very day, and on that very day, this director intimates to the company that 4,000 odd shares have been purchased by my financial advisor in my name. But that is not the purchase of shares, is not the reason. Reason is conflict of interest. If my question is, if the conflict of interest is the reason, that particular independent director is also independent director in another financial services company, listed company. She has not resigned from there. Whether conflict of interest is not there, why conflict of interest here only? I think everything was staged, managed here. Even the company, the moment company takes up the matter before the audit committee, on that very day in the board meeting, the company appoints another independent director to fill up the casual vacancy. So everything was well planned, everything was stage managed. So I wash only that in the letter you are writing something, actual reasons are something. God knows whether whatever has been shown to the public or the exchange, there is something beyond that. This is what my take on this entire episode. Now coming to this penalty part, you said whether penalty can be imposed by compliance officer or audit committee or not. I will go by Mr. Gupta here, that don't read the law, see what is fair, what is not fair. My take on this is, as per law, penalty cannot be imposed by this compliance officer. Penalty can always be imposed under the law either by the regulator or by the adjudicating authority. Even under SEBI also, SEBI appoints adjudicating officer who impose penalty. Under MC also, it is the ROC who is the adjudicating authority who imposes penalty. Officer of the company cannot impose penalty. However, for this insider trading and all that, certain actions can be taken against the employees of the company. Maybe their salaries may be withdrawn, or their promotion can be stopped by virtue of the service rules and all that. But an independent director can never be liable a penalty by the compliance officer. This, according to me, even if there is a provision, this provision is not as per the Constitution of India. This provision has to be struck down. I'm not sure whether there is any provision or not, but I'm sure there is no provision. Even if there is provision, this provision is not as per law.
Okay. Okay. Savitri, there is a one burning issues, whether exemptions to private company issued by its MCA notification dated 5th June 15 with respect to section 185 is still available despite of the entire amendment made effective 7/8/2018.
This is a gray area. Since the entire section has got completely replaced, will the earlier exemption stand and be valid and good is slightly of a gray area. While the intention with respect to the earlier provision was that in case of private companies, it should be permitted. So one would need to take a view that yes, it is permitted. However, I would take a conservative view and I would say that in case of companies, it is better to stay away from this particular provision. And which is the reason I would say it's a bit of a gray area, although both these interpretations are out in the market.
Okay. Okay. Gupta sir, the independent director issues which has taken place in other companies also, and which is like some of the employees has done the trading in the scrip of various companies, and then they devoured. And today also SEBI has passed an order and disgorged the amount. So what is your call on this trading by the connected people, and then SEBI is doing investigation? What is your call? How to protect this?
I will come to the last portion of your question first. How to protect this? And I will say, except God, nobody can protect this. The reason is nobody is present, or rather regulator is not present in the mind and heart and hands of every person who does it. It is on the conscience of the person. It is on the knowledge of that person. Now, there are two types of violation. One violation is that I do not know and it happened. Other is I knew and I did. Now, I will give an example that I have two sons. Now, I really do not know what shares they will be buying or what share they will be selling. I will never know. Now, assume I am an independent director, I am a promoter, or I am an insider in a company. Now, unless until I tell my sons that please give me in writing or take my permission before you do any transaction, they will say, get lost. That is their simple thing, because they will say, I am not having time to take your thing. So the issue is the difficulty of a regulator, of lawmaker, is to how to really put people in the umbrella of insider or connected person. The second is tracing the transaction. Now, I would say none of us would have a solution to it. The solution could be from the micro things, that if I have a company, I should frame insider trading regulation or connected person trading regulation and ensure that everybody who is coming into that umbrella complies with it. Now, coming back to the case where Mr. Madan was saying, Now the issue, the technical question is, can I take a shelter that my independent advisor bought or sold share of a company? Now we got to get into something that what type of relationship was there, what type of power of attorney was there, whether those shares could have been bought without even consulting that person or not. So all these things are gray areas which can never be turned into black and white.
Okay, okay. Savitri, what is the maximum permitted indebtedness in Regulation 16(1)(b), subsection V, subsection 5, that will not make a person ineligible for being appointed as ID? Whether these limits are individual or aggregate of all relatives?
So the limit which has been given under this particular provision, where it says where none of his relatives have any indebtedness or hold shares, all those provisions which have been given, and it is all those put together should not exceed 2% of the turnover or gross income as a gross turnover or total income as the case may be, or rupees 50 lakhs. So that's the monetary limit, 50 lakhs, and whichever is lower. So it's one of these two, whichever is lower. And of course, the 50 lakhs may even, there is a authority to enhance this amount of 50 lakhs by the regulator. Actually, this has been brought more or less in sync with the provisions of Companies Act, except that under Companies Act, there are these 2 years and 3 years which have been used. Under LODR, they've made it uniform with respect to 3 years.
Okay. Savitri, just connected question. Is it necessary to appoint the independent director of second term before the first term expired, or he can be appointed even after the first term expires?
Actually, the law, the section 149 does not very specifically say prior to the appointment. However, I would say it's a good practice to appoint prior, because you require a special resolution for the person to continue in office. Although, of course, we do know of 2-3 cases where it was done post the end of the tenure. I would say that it is a good practice and good governance practice to ensure it is done before.
Gupta ji, can you just, the macro view, can you tell on the independent director? There are so many changes SEBI is bringing out, MC is bringing out. Can you summarize in a very few lucid manner that what the industry should do? Because you have advocating that every law, you cannot make law for everything. You have to follow the spirit. So what is the spirit?
See, again, I will reiterate that SEBI or MCA is forced to make a law because you are not following the thing in the spirit. As long as this cat and mouse game keeps on going, there will be more and more regulation, and it could be extended to 100 or 1,000 pages. The issue is the question whether I am a truly independent or not. Now, the question I will answer a very simple thing, that if you remember last year, there was a proposal in IDFC where Mr. Vinod Rai, who was the independent director, was to be appointed a non-independent, non-executive director. Now, people opposed it. Because how come it is a situation where I am a independent for 10 years and then after that I will be appointed as non-independent director? That means my independence was lost the moment I thought that I can take up this assignment. So this type of cases are coming, and I would always say that it should be independent directors should introspect themselves and see whether it will have a scrutiny of the public or not. And I will give you another example. Last year, Vedanta appointed 2 employees, ex-employees, as their independent director. Now, just tell me, in a population of 7 billion people in the world, you could find only 2 ex-employees who are worthy of becoming an independent director in your company? That is the question. So, you don't need Einstein or Newton to find out what is the reason. That is the reason that your intention is not pious.
Okay. Rajiv.
Yeah.
What is the legal position of joint 50 MD in the company, whether Schedule 5, Section 196/98 and of Companies Act and the SEBI LODR applicability?
Can you just repeat the question?
What is the legal provision of joint deputy MD in a company, whether Schedule 5, Section 196 to 98?
So
And-
I think, as far as I remember, I think there is a restriction in terms of appointment of two MD. A joint MD will be in the position in the nomenclature of an executive director. So you can have more than one executive director. Restriction is only in terms of MD. So in my view, it can be done.
Okay. Gupta sir, this recent IPOs, you have seen the IPOs of which has gone to the high level, and then people are saying it's a high value, the company is in loss, and there's a new generation company. So do you want to suggest something to SEBI or the investor? Madan, I will ask you the same thing.
Okay. See, Pavan, I will say the SEBI and that to rightly has an attitude that buyers beware. The only thing SEBI can do is this: provide information. Now, say for example, you have an option of buying a Tata car or you have an option of buying a Ferrari. Now, depending upon how much what value you attach to it. Now, if a company say that I have been making losses, I have this thing, the promoters have taken share at 1 paisa, but I am going to sell it for 2,000 rupees. If with all these information and data set, I still feel that I should buy that share, SEBI cannot stop it. The issue is SEBI cannot stop entry of those people as long as their activity is legal, as long as they are disclosing everything. The issue comes here is the nexus, as somebody said, about social media. Oh, that is Sundaresan said. Social media, merchant banking, TV channels, newspapers, you, me, and everybody who create a hype and bring innocent people with the enticement of a quick money that I buy at 100 today and upon listing I can sell at 150. That trap. But SEBI cannot stop that. SEBI cannot say the media should not cover. SEBI cannot say the merchant banker should not cover. SEBI cannot say. It is only when you find that there has been some malafide, something wrong, then only can SEBI take an action. As long as there is a disclosure, SEBI cannot do anything.
Okay, Madan.
And I am logging out, please.
Okay, Madan. The IPO issue is which Mr. Gupta has mentioned. You are saying the LIC issue will be a problem if there is no correction. What is your call on this? Sir, we will wait for you.
If you allow me, may I cover both the questions? The earlier question which you asked to Mr. Gupta also.
Very quickly.
Okay, last year, 12 companies came out with the IPOs of more than 2,500 crores. Out of those 12 companies, 8 company shares are being traded at a price less than the issue price. And this is at a time when the market is at its peak, the market is at its high. Now, it means there is something wrong with the valuation. Now, today the regulator said that they do not look into the valuation. And if you read the preamble of SEBI Act, preamble of the SEBI Act says this is for the establishment of the board to protect the interest of the investors in securities. So it is a primary duty of the regulator of the board to protect the interest of these investors in securities. And if because of inaction on the part of the regulator, if they do not look into the valuation, and if people come out with the IPO at the higher valuation and investors are losing the money in the market, something has to be done. It means either the failure of the regulator or failure of the companies or failure of the merchant bankers or other intermediaries in between. Then my question arises, what action has been taken by the regulator? Has somebody been penalized? Has somebody been punished? If some stern action is not taken immediately means within this month itself, I'm saying so, because in the finance minister budget, we said the LIC issue shall be there within this fiscal. If some action is not taken and God forbid if LIC issue fails, it will be very, very have a major dent on our capital market, on our economy. And while fixing the price of this LIC IPO also, I think we need to be very, very conservative. But before that, I want some action, some stern action, some message from the regulator for these higher valuations.
Okay. Savitri, there's a one question. If the private company chooses to issue security to a person other than its shareholder, then can it be issued through private placement by complying only section 42 and not section 62? Can we say the private placement does not trigger provision of section 62, but it is vice versa?
Actually, in case of a private company, typically in the articles, you would have a clause which says that the directors shall have a right to issue the shares to such persons as they may deem fit. And talking of 42 and 62, the two are complementary. It's not that one is against the other. 62 only speaks of rights issue as well as ESOPs and says that if you want to issue shares to any person other than the existing shareholders, then 62(3), which requires a special resolution to be passed. If you go under 42, which specifically deals with private placement of shares, read with the rules, Rule 14 of Chapter 3 rules, it very specifically says that you require a special resolution to be passed. So what 42 says is for making a private placement, you need to comply with these provisions as well as the rules which have been prescribed thereunder. It's not that it's either 42 or 62. 62 speaks of the different persons to whom you can issue, and 42 is specific only to private placement.
Okay. Okay. So, next question now. There are certain questions relating to the appointment of board of directors and board composition. So, KSR, I will request you to tell us a new regulation effectively restricts the power of board of directors to appoint additional director under section 161(1) of the Companies Act. What is the objective of such an enactment? Whether reappointment of managing director would also be covered under regulation 17(1)(c), or it is only applies to a person when she or he is introduced first time on the board of a listed company?
I think it will apply only when somebody is introduced for the first time in the board. There is no restriction, in my opinion, contained in 71(c).
Okay. Okay. Anybody has different view what KSR has said?
No restriction.
Amit, whether chairperson elected for respective meeting shall be considered as chairperson of the if there is no chairperson of the company?
Yeah, I believe you are talking about the provision of regulation 17(2)(b),
Yes.
which says that regarding the separation of chairperson from the position of managing director or chief executive officer. The provision is set to come with effect from 1st of April 2022, and it has got many dimensions. Now, if we see the provisions of Companies Act as well as SEBI LODR, we can have primarily three types of chairpersons. One chairperson of company, one chairperson of board, and one chairperson of meeting. Now, there has not been a very fine distinction in this entire regulation as far as using these terminologies is concerned. So keeping that background in mind and the objective for which the SEBI wants to separate these two positions, essentially to avoid the concentration of power with one particular person. That is the objective, though I have a different view on this proposal itself, but that is not the question. The question that you have asked is, let's say company does not appoint a chairman of a company and decide to have a appointment of chairperson meeting to meeting. Whether this will meet to the requirement of 17(2)(b), answer to my mind is no, because that chairman of meeting to meeting will also be hit by the provision of 17(2)(b), to answer to your particular question.
Okay. Savitri, whether the purpose and effect will include genuine transaction in ordinary course of business, but which may result in some benefit to related party?
Pawan, I think these terms require further clarification and there has to be a bright line test to explain these terms. So I would refrain from explaining it at this juncture, but maybe if Narayan wants to add to this.
Narayan, okay, I will ask question Narayan some different. Whether what are new amendment?
Mute.
Narayan, you are mute. Narayan, you.
No, what I wanted to, I just entered half a second back, so you'll have to just repeat.
Okay.
I just heard the last line of Savitri.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will start with again. First, I'll KSR. After new amendment LODR provision related to RPT, can institutional investor also become related party? Narayan, you can give answer.
Yeah, answer is yes. There is no exemption given to financial investors. And this is actually one of the carve-outs we are even asking SEBI to give, because knowingly, unknowingly, all financial investors, whether it is LIC, GIC, all the other funds which are shareholders in your company would then become a related party, because there is no exemption given. And rightfully, we've been asking them to see whether that carve-out can be given.
Okay. KSR, whether purpose and effect means that the listed entity must be aware of the fact that transaction is being undertaken or indirectly benefit related party.
Absolutely. I think I would borrow the words of our friend Jain Gupta ji in the beginning. You know, in order to be fair, you don't need regulations.
Okay.
Purpose is very important. And if the purpose is something which is told and something which is not told, the extent of something which is not told matters much in terms of any inquiry, investigation, inspection, and subsequent grilling. So what grilling happens is on what is not told. And when what is not told comes out, it is a governance issue, it is a reputation issue.
Yeah. So Pawan, I would like to add and supplement on this particular point and purpose and effect, if you may allow, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So the point on purpose and effect which I wanted to make is, it's while it appears to be quite a laudable one which has come, but the key point is, how do we as compliance officer try to get it as an SOP? Please understand, big corporates where with you have got 100+ subsidiaries, it can only, you have to dwell into a purpose or a process, correct? How do you get in a process? If you're saying, even if you do a transaction with an unrelated party, the purpose and effect of which is to benefit a related party, you have to go all the way and take listed entities, audit committee approval, and beyond the threshold, even shareholders. Let me give example. Suppose I'm saying we have 100 odd subsidiaries, okay? You will be, the parent company may be sourcing materials, maybe sourcing metals on behalf. The whole purpose is, when you source metal on behalf of the entire group, there is collective bargaining, you get economic benefits, rather than allowing each member in the group to go and bargain it out there, correct? So today, imagine a situation from 1st April, whenever the purpose effect, of course, it's coming from 2023. Imagine a situation where you are going to have this, because it is on behalf of your subsidiaries or your associates also who are there in the group. Then you're going to say the acid test of purpose and effect both are met. So what are we saying? If either of them is missing, purpose and effect both will have to be at the time of initiation of the arrangement or contract. It can never be afterward, because if it is afterward, how do I dole out policies across the group? So whether it is a company secretary in employment or KSR sir at the time of audit, he will only be guided what is the intention or what is it which is at the time of initiation. So at the time, if the purpose and effect is, you are able to get both into the net, it's okay. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. Otherwise, it's really a wild goose chase, because say a company, the live example which was given even when we had sessions was this particular the bank which is giving a loan to a particular company, and that particular company giving it to another entity in which probably the relative of the KMP is involved. my view is even today, how the transaction will come into the purpose and effect, it is doubtful. Because the bank at all point will tell the purpose and effect was not to benefit the ultimate beneficiary, which you have given. We have given it because you have come with a specific project, or it is called general corporate purpose. Jiska kuch nahi hai, it comes under the basket of general corporate purpose, correct? So I don't think these things really can get into, but a lot will have to be done, because what we are trying to do is one or two, the way we've been always telling, one or two corporate misconduct or corporate fraud will also lead into one or two bad laws, which is difficult for even compliance. That's the only point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ankit, the meaning of material modification is defined in RPT policy as 20% variation from the approved limit. If the omnibus approval obtained for a transaction of unforeseen in nature for ₹1 crore and the transaction takes place only for 10 lakh, will this be considered material modification?
Can you just come again?
Question. Okay. The meaning of material modification is defined in RPT policy as 20% variation from the approved limit. If the omnibus approval obtained for a transaction of unforeseen in nature of ₹1 crore and the transaction take place only for 10 lakh, will this be considered material modification? Because I have taken approval.
I don't think this will be considered as material modification.
Kesar, you have any points? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Sir, I state this, even previously I have stated this. Number one, we talk about value. Number two, we talk about volume. Number three, we talk about party. Number four, we talk about material terms. There I am using the word material again. If we are able to bring the change into these four aspects: value, volume, material terms, party, that is person, then it is material, nothing else.
And Pavan, one more general, probably wrong, what I can say, concept which is going on is everything, because the law today gives the audit committee privilege to define material modification. So what you have to understand, there will be two types of transactions. One transaction where the listed entity itself is going to be a party. So where the listed entity itself is going to be a party, every modification will go, because 177 is involved, schedule, whatever, the 2 of LODR will be involved. You are only talking, now we are creating an additional vertical called probably, just for the sake of acronym, I'll call deemed related party transactions, where you're saying you're now going to get a bucket.
Shankar,
Let me complete. Sorry.
I am talking about, I am calling this as masked related party transaction.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for that acronym.
To add some lighter side.
Definitely. So either you can call masked or you can call deemed RPTs. It is the deemed RPTs where you're saying you're not party. A subsidiary is having it with the other fellow subsidiary, or it is having it with the related party of the holdco, where you're yourself not there a party. Those transactions are going to hit the audit committee if it crosses 10% threshold, correct? What you have to understand today, which is going to be quite what I can say, different situation, when it comes to approval, you're saying the audit committee, the transaction at the subco level will hit the holding company if it crosses 10%. But when it comes to 23(9) disclosure, there is no such limit put. So imagine a situation from 1st April, when you're doing the first related party disclosure, there is going to hit many transactions under disclosure, which is not approved by the audit committee of the listed entity. That's going to be quite a difficult situation. And hence corporates are today even scrambling to say, is it right? Because if the subsidiary is a listed entity, Pavan, you still have a leeway of saying all the transaction underneath goes to the audit committee of the subsidiary, which is listed. you are safe. You will say at least there is a proper process. But for unlisted, it would not have come about. It is below the threshold and everything goes for a disclosure regime. And most important today, what people are going to face is, come March, Pawan, all companies will have to take omnibus approval for the next year, correct? And mind you, today the related party transaction is 10x, with subsidiaries being a party, purpose and effect, of course, 1 year later. So all that details, and Khuda na Sahib, that 22nd November circular, what all items they have asked to go to the audit committee for approval. I am telling many of those will not be available with the corporates in March. So compliance issues are going to be humongous, and it's going to be, of course, really fun to see how we set up processes which can really be adhering to all these requirements. Thank you.
Ankit,
Just to add, I think the disclosure process is most cumbersome as opposed to approval process. Because of this, the transactions might not be going to the audit committee for approval, but they have to be disclosed in full.
That's
So
the point.
that's the main issue.
okay.
So that's why a lot of corporates, Ankits, are also thinking this threshold has no meaning today. So why, if everything has to be disclosed and you are actually looking at the concept entire as a group vis-a-vis the standalone, so as well take all transactions.
Okay. So
Yeah.
friends,
Sir, Pawan sir, just a small point. Just a small point. What Narayan Shankar was trying to communicate. If I'm able to understand correctly, then his understanding is that under 23(9), even the transactions where Listco is not a party will also require to be disclosed.
Absolutely.
okay. Let me
Yeah,
just
go next.
other related party.
Disclosure of related party transaction.
Ankit,
Just 1 minute. I
Yeah,
would just like
Savitri
to
ma'am has to
add.
add something.
Yeah, I would just like to add that while Narayan mentioned about the threshold, it's important to note that 23(4) does not refer to any threshold. So while 23(2), the second proviso, refers to a threshold.
Yeah, absolutely.
So which basically means even if the subsidiary is entering into a transaction with another subsidiary where the listed entity has no role, okay, while the intention may have been not to include, it has got included.
okay.
No, but I think, ma'am.
No. Savitri, what the point is, if you are a party, so let us split it into two parts. If the listed entity is a party and you are doing it with the, say, a related party of the subsidiary, no thresholds, because you are yourself a party. That threshold comes only when it is bottom up and not top down.
No. That's exactly the one that I'm saying. In the definition of related party, in the definition of related party transaction, on the one hand, your beautiful diagram, Narayan Shankar, which you've been using everywhere, it is the listed entity or its subsidiary, and any other entity on the other side. While 23(2) second proviso has very clearly brought out the distinction between where the listed entity is a party and where the listed entity is not a party. 23(4) has not made this carve out. Let me leave the point there.
Ma'am,
let's do one thing.
That's good.
Because this is going to too technical, and I have so many questions.
Yeah. Let's proceed.
I'm assuring every participant that we have a time up to 7 o'clock, and my learned speaker will log in and log out, but they will be here. So one of the expert will be here. So I will complete this. So let me just complete the related party transaction certain issues. So we will move to other topics. Ankit, a new reporting disclosure format provide whether a transaction is undertaken between members of the consolidated entity, between the listed entity and the subsidiary, or between subsidiaries. It may be reported once. Please clarify, what does it mean?
It means when transactions are entered, for example, between two subsidiaries, it is transactions from both ends. So it need not to be reported twice. If it has been reported once, it covers both these sides.
Any different view, KSR and Savitri and Narayan? Amit, any different view on this, what Ankit is saying?
So It will always be per related party. It can never be aggregated. That is, even currently we are doing the same. I don't think there is any change in that.
Okay. Okay. Savitri, whether materiality threshold has to be determined transaction-wise or entity-wise. Further, whether transaction of all subsidiary with one related party need to be added to check materiality threshold. Any other person? KSR, can you?
Oh yes, answer is yes. It will be even currently, Pawan, it is per related party. It will continue to be that. And when you are talking about per related party, all transaction with that related party will be aggregated. Goes without saying. Answer is a yes, resounding yes for that.
No, but one question which is
sorry, KSR.
No, in corporate, one question which is probably SEBI can consider is about class of transaction. See, I have previously
purchase, sales. You're talking about class, correct? Yeah, that's it.
So let us say 188 is giving some classification or categorization. So previously in another conference also I have mentioned this. Suppose your whole of the related party transactions in the company itself is, let us say, a threshold of 25% of your turnover itself. Whole of the turnover, 25% is all that the related parties transactions are. Do we not need a relaxed situation in terms of compliance for that? That is one thing which I wanted somebody to ponder about it. The second thing is about class of transactions. Your related party may be providing several goods and services. Why do you club all those irrational classifications to bring the materiality into it? The shareholders have to objectively decide whether in this particular transaction, which is material, in terms of these goods, are we going to award or not? Is there any issue? Do we need a clarification? So that way, clubbing all the transactions with the related party to decide at the end of the day it is more than 10% or it is material is not a rational classification in my opinion.
Anything else in related party? Because I'll log off in about next. Yeah.
So what is the applicable question? RPT provision to private companies which are high value debt listed companies.
Ankit, you would like to answer? Private limited debt listed?
I think, sir,
private limited debt listed companies are also required to comply with the requirements of related party transactions. At the same time, it is very important to consider the fact that if you go by the related party definition under LODR, all the shareholders would be prevented from voting on this. And in Companies Act, you do have a carve out where 90% of the shareholders are related parties, and they would then be, they would then not have this disqualification in terms of voting. Such a carve out has not been provided currently, but I would say this is something which needs to be considered, because in case of private companies, which would be high value, which a good number of them may be high value debt listed entities, this needs to be considered.
Currently do or explain, let us see.
Okay. KSR, disclosure of RPT relating to financial year closing, which format will applicable? New reporting or old format?
New reporting.
Okay. Narayan, is new reporting?
This is for, are you talking about 31st March 22?
Yeah.
No, why should we? I thought it should always be prospective. Because if we are reporting that we are talking about 31st March 22, this new regime is coming from 1st April. I would presume that I will go only prospective, that is transactions from 1st April will be disclosed in the format and not transaction up to 31st March. And the second point on this is, which probably a lot of companies are not realizing, is come 31st March, besides 10%, you also have 1,000 crore limit, correct? Which is absolute. And it also includes, like Savitri has rightly alluded, 23(4), I was just saying, which is the shareholder resolution provision, which is a combination of other, sorry, if you use KSR's word, your own as well as the masked RPT, both if you put together, you have to really be careful. If it crosses that 1,000 crore, there is no transition provision currently which has been made to say that you can take it up at the first AGM. You have to ensure that if that is not the case, in April, you have to do a sort of a budgeting exercise right now. If this does not happen, then you have to, the business will stop. You will have to take an EGM, you'll have to take a postal ballot immediately. So that is something which we've been also probably asking SEBI to consider, at least, like I think Pradeep is also there. Pradeep will also mention that in all the earlier, even when the initial CG had come, and the same question probably I know SEBI corporates had gone when Pradeep, you will recollect, when the 75 years had come, correct? That nobody can, you can neither reappoint nor even if that person crosses the 31st March. So similarly over here, if on account of even 1,000 crore being breaching in April, some people, companies will then have to do postal ballot. I think we should consider a transit clause of saying that if it is for the first time you're crossing, you can go at the first AGM after first, because it is going to be prospective only.
Okay. Pradeep, if all directors are interested in related party transaction, then how it is can be approved by the board of directors? You have to go to shareholders?
Sorry, you'll have to go to the shareholders then. If all the directors are. But with the recommendation, because the quota committee has specifically mentioned that, I think there's an amendment which came after the quota committee, and it said that in case whatever you send it to the shareholders, you send it through with the recommendation.
Okay. Amit, will loan transaction with related party be covered under availing or rendering of service as per section 188?
Under 188, it will not. But 23, it will.
Okay. Okay. Now,
sir, I have a Pawan sir. I have a little different view, which I wanted to put across regarding the approval under 23(4). With regard to, I'm just parking a issue for discussion. What Shankar sir has mentioned, I have a feeling that shareholder approval shall be required only in those cases where Listco is a party. Where Listco is not a party, 23(4) will have no application. Audit committee approval, where you are crossing the threshold in respect of transaction where Listco is not a party, is a requirement. But why I am saying so? Because the material related party transaction word has been used in 23(1) by way of a proviso now. And it uses a very distinct language. So the difference, what we were having earlier, transaction with related party and related party transaction will come into play. And that does not envisage a transaction where Listco is not a party. I'm just flagging it. Maybe we can discuss it at once Shankar sir is back.
No, so Amit, we've had multiple discussions in this, because if you really say it's, while I accept it could have been probably been better tightly worded, because at times at places I can tell you right now, places we are using related party, certain places transaction with related party. But if you're going to nitpick and say, because the language is different in different regulations, unless I am a party, everything will go out. I don't think it will fly, because if the subsidiaries is crossing 10%, and if it is crossing audit committee, it is going to cross even the shareholders. But we can take it offline for only academic discussion. But I don't think that will fly. But over to you, Pawan.
Okay, we will discuss this in detail when we will have a separate program. Now, our silent spectator since beginning, Sudhakar, there are some few questions for you. Sudhakar, there is a issue relating to dividend. A company has surplus profit in previous financial year but has incurred losses in the current financial year. Can the board declare any percentage of dividend, or there are any restrictions? Whether the company is required to comply with rules for declaration of dividend out of reserve?
Good evening, Pawan, and good evening, participants. And Pawan, let me also congratulate you on the 75th webinar.
Thank you.
And kudos to corporate professionals. And as far as this question of dividend is concerned, when there is no profits, if the company is declaring the dividend out of the previous year's profits, under 123(3), the company can declare dividend from three resources. Number one, it is the current year profits. Number two, it is the previous year profits. Number three, it is also the profits of the current financial year in respect of the previous financial year also. So whenever you are making the payment of dividend out of the surplus of the profits, previous year profits, it doesn't amount to payment of dividend from the reserves. That's why you don't need to comply with the reserve rules. However, if you are declaring the dividend, say in the year 22-23, in respect of the financial year 21-22, and the date when you are declaring the dividend in the previous quarter, if there are any losses are there, that point of time, the rate of dividend cannot be more than the previous 3 years average rate of dividend. That is the only thing which need to be seen. Otherwise, reserves rules need not be complied with.
Okay, Sudhakar, there is another question related to deposits, because these are the connected things. Whether the exempted deposit as per acceptance of deposit rules are interlinked or they are standalone. For example, under sub rule 6, any amount received by the company from any other company is exempted. But in subsequent rule, any advance received from supply of goods not appropriated within 365 days or application money against issue of security, it is not allotted within the period of 60 days, considered to be not exempted deposit. Can it be said that the money received as advance against goods or application money is exempt?
See, there are two schools of thought is there for this thing. I belongs to one school. Number one, according to me, these exemptions are not interlinked. They are all standalone exemptions. So nowhere, if you see the rules, it is interlinked and occupied. Suppose if it is subsequently, if something is prohibited, the previous one exemption is overruled. It is not so. And as you rightly said, that any money received from a company is an exempted deposit. No doubt about it. Subsequent, there are certain other exemptions are there, provided the advance is received, and similarly, share application money, if you're not allotted within 60 days, they will fall under the definition of deposits. But according to me, that all the rules are standalone exemptions, and I will read like that only. In fact, in my latest article, which was published in the Chartered Secretary on the fixed deposits only, I have mentioned about this particular fact, and I also suggested that MCA to give a clarification on this particular aspect.
Okay. Pradeep.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you see that, because you are a regulator, but you are a more academic professional also, and we are proud that you're always participating in the knowledge sharing. Now, we have talked about the governance, and now governance is a legal part, and now you're introducing the ESG, the environment, social, and governance. But tell me, governance, the SEBI and MCA can manage. But how these two things, the environment and this thing, it is just only the latter part, or how we can put the spirit and the professional of chartered accountant, company secretary to whom we are putting that responsibility, how they will fulfill this, because there's a total technical work.
See, there was a point in time when businesses were for wealth maximization. So it started like that, and we have, in fact, there is a time when Adam Smith's maxim that businesses for wealth maximization used to rule. So over a period of time, we have found that now there are three parts to it: E, S, and G. I'll talk about the E part first. For a period of time, we have found that we have only one planet to live. We don't have any other planet to live if this planet goes bad. So what can we do? Like, for example, in my own case, I just look at the amount of pollution that I end up, contributing to air, water, the amount of plastic and aluminum foils, etc. I throw every day. You take a cup of, for preparing one pack of Maggi, you use one plastic cover and one aluminum foil. look at the amount of things that we use. Now, just if you extrapolate it to a business activity, and the impact is humongous. And last year, we just, in 2020, we found one small issue, which started as a very small issue in one part of the world, ended up flattening the entire world together, the COVID pandemic. Now, and if you look at how in the recent COP26 summit, all the nations have agreed that it is a responsibility to ensure that we should not emit more. We have to contribute less to pollution. We have to, if not phase out, we have to phase down the things that that are contributing to environmental and water pollution and other things. So with that in mind, when we formulated the BRSR, so it was like, so now today, if I have to say India has to be carbon neutral. So the idea what we are having is that we are saying we will be zero, carbon neutral in 2070. That's what we have said. 2070 is probably 50 years away, but 2070 we are saying we'll be zero emitting. Like in the sense, like we'll be having less of emissions when compared to what we generate. So that is a very ambitious target, because even, for example, if you take today, India has an installed capacity of 400 gigawatts of power, out of which 245 comes from coal, fossil fuels. So 60 plus 65% of our needs are coming from polluting, things. Even people talk about electric cars. Even to charge an electric car, you have to use coal only. So in a way, you are anyway contributing to it. So similarly, as I said, if you're extrapolating to a corporate level, there's a lot of pollution. Now, so what can you do? How can you sort of reduce pollution? Or how can you sort of
Pradeep, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So how do we go ahead with this? So first is the measurability is important. So if you look at the BRR and when you can look at the BRSR, the biggest differences which are there are the quantifiability of how much you emit. The things on those parameters, the parameters relating to pollution and other things, effluents, how are you treating effluents, how are you saving, what is the thing taken on, conservation and other things. These are the things that are different in the BRSR. So that will be extrapolated at a national level. And then you will be able to measure, because how will you measure how much does a country pollute or how much does a country save? So you need authentic information. That is what the BRSR tries to contribute. That is what one part of environment is. So wealth maximization has sort of is one thing, but wealth maximization with a social twist. That is what is recognized by Companies Act in 166(2). It says that the board of directors shall be responsible even towards the environment, stakeholders. So the environment has become a stakeholder. So there was one point in time when you just make, like for example, that is the thing with companies like Exxon Mobil are grappling today in the West, because the highest, the companies with the biggest, best market capitalization were all the oil companies. Now, when you look at further oil deposits, shale oil, when you're going to search for more oil from shale oil deposits and other things, there is fracking and other things which are happening. So there is going to be a lot of questions that are raised by institutional investors and others. Though one should admit that what exactly is green investing is something which a lot of people have not come to an agreement on. Just a few months back, the investment in the farm stocks, as we talk about, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix and Google. So investing in these companies was considered to be green investing. So today, we found out that these companies are also generating a lot of pollution on their own, electronic waste. Even otherwise, to run all these servers, so millions of servers and all those things, and you have to run, you anyway emit. So that is also, it's not completely green as what has been thought about. So over a period of time, we have to come together, just like how we as a world came together and we have fought the COVID pandemic. We have to come together and we have to fight this environmental pollution, because this is something which we only have created. So, because ultimately, what is the point of money in your hands if you're not able to use it properly? If you're not able to breathe. So if probably 10 years back, someone was to tell me that there will be an air purifier at home or an air purifier in your car, I would have laughed it off. Today is the reality. So then if you look at it again, if you extrapolate it at a country level, at an international level, so we just don't have a choice but to be socially conscious. It has come to a stage where socially conscious is no more fashionable, but it is actually a de rigueur. So if you look at that, when you extrapolate that again, then we have to do this. So that is from where the environmental angle comes. Now, so social angle is also an extension of the same thing. Like today, what have you done? So the CSR thing, for example, what have you done for the society? So you have generated money, you have kept your shareholders happy, you have made your employees happy. Now, even employees, how many employees are like even for the government or non-government, they ask as to how many people are differently able, how many people are women, okay, and has there been any complaints? If there are any complaints, are you dealing with those? This is what exactly is being sought with a BRSR, and the idea behind this is perfect. It's just altruism. So over a period of time, these things will become embedded. So I remember when we were doing the BRSR, when we were discussing with many small companies, they said that if I have to get contracts from certain countries, I have to show that my factory does not employ child labor. Those people come, they take photographs and they send. Those people come for surprise inspections. They nominate some agency to take an inspection. So this is only going to contribute to the more tough, more green, more turnover. So because over a period of time, this, just as I was saying, it is just going to be a compulsory thing for you to do. Like for example, in 2030, Britain has said that we will move to electric vehicles, which means that you can't drive a petrol car in Britain after 2030 and beyond. Right? You can't. So that is what they have said, so maybe a new thing. So this is a very ambitious thing. So over a period of time, this has become something that we have to compulsorily comply with. So, and that is what companies should push towards.
Pradeep, what is the current ESG reporting practice in India? As a regulator, you have made this, and what is because in India, we follow letter part more than the spirit. So what is your, because this is a very ambitious, and you can't expect corporate also to implement it immediately. Okay. So what is your plan that the reporting practice is there, and how to increase that visibility? Like one is market is taking care that the people are coming out that I will invest only in the ESG compliant company, but the ESG compliant company has to give reporting also. So the reporting should be very strong. So what is your experience? And I will ask Girish Joshi also that Girish Joshi, what is the experience of BSc also in this? Yeah.
So when we introduced the concept of women director in 2013, the Companies Act and the LODR, also brought it in 2015. Earlier than it was added to the listing agreement earlier. The idea at that point in time was just diversity. We wanted women on the board. Okay, so then companies started complying within letter. I bring my wife, my sister, my daughter on the board. So SEBI or MCA or all those people were like, okay, fine. We are fine with some women on the board. So let the diversity increase first. Now, after 7 years, 8 years of that, 6, 7 years of that amendment, now we have said that we are mature enough to transition to the next level, which is the women independent director. So first you start with compliance in letter. Over a period of time, it will become compliance in spirit also, in case someone does not want to comply in spirit while they are complying within letter. So this is, as I said, a lot of these things, you can only take the horse to the water, you cannot make it drink. So you will not be able to jump the red light all the time. So over a period of time, as I said, this will become a dharag. You will have to comply with it if you have to show yourself to the world, and you will have to exist in the world. Otherwise, over a period of time, you will have to shut shop. Like for example, today, if the companies which are emitting more, carbon, they're finding it difficult to sell their companies through because merchant bankers are not taking such mandates. So it will be more a period of a forceful fitting or a period of time in case you don't come.
Girish Joshi, what is your experience? Because now ESG is compulsory for CU companies. It's a big company.
I would say, Pawanji, because as a BSc also invited in various international forums to share the views, because ESG is a buzzword, and it was a buzzword, but now it is not a buzzword. It is like a normal thing which every corporate should follow, and it is in all forums, whether CII, FICCI, everywhere it is being pitched. ESG is a must. Now, as whether you do the ESG as a greenwashing only, making a very nice your report, annual report, or you have to actually follow ESG in a true sense in your business model. And Pradeep has well articulated. It is now we are in the second stage or even third stage. It is no longer only just making power good in your report something, but it is a part of your business model. Where I am coming from, because in one of the seminar, one speaker said very good example, digital. So earlier we were not used to the computer, no, we were all working manually. Now digital is a part of your business model. Whichever activity you do, everything has to be digitized, it has to be automated. Same thing for payment solution. Same way, ESG will become your part of your integrated business practices, business model. Okay, even the board of directors, independent directors, they will also ask KRA from the management, what are your ESG targets? Okay, how you are going to achieve, and they will try to even set some benchmarks to the management, or board members are going to expect same from the management. So why it is coming? There are two ways. One is uh, the pressure. The second point was, it is a demand side or a supply side. When I say demand side, whether it is expectation is from the investors, expectation is from your customer on supply chain distribution. The way Pradeep has given one example. Yes, that was the initial pressure, but I would say now the pressure is coming from the within. It is coming from the management. It is top-down approach, and it is, I think we are not far ahead of compared to the West country or other countries, because people are realizing that resources are not so obvious, the where you are working, where your manufacturing facilities or where you are operating. So people create capacity in such a way that I'll be able to use the solar energy. I have proper permission from the solar. I will able to use the water, because water is the next big thing which we are going to face, and how I can do water recycling. So ESG, and that way qualitative reporting is going to emerge sooner or later. Like BRSR framework is made for top 1,000 company, and more quality disclosure will come, because even I think the buzzword, industry people are discussing. We are doing GRI reporting, integrated reporting. Why we should do multiple reporting? So even common taxonomy will also emerge. Another point is, some companies says, no, I am doing so much ESG, better disclosure, where benefit I am getting. So the benefit you get in two way. Some market investor will definitely try to remain sticky with your stock even in your bad period, when cyclical ups and downs do happen in any company's business model. So those investors will remain with the company. That is being proved empirically in India and even abroad also. But even I would say the customer centric, even the customers, other stakeholders, they are also going to prefer such companies, because the new generation which is there, and the new generation takes decision very fast. They adopt a certain brand and they throw away that brand very easily. It is not like people from old generation, they stick to one brand. So people, companies are very conscious. If we don't follow that, then consumer are also very alert, and they are also going to punish the companies and its products. So we are very positive, though we would say we may have started late India, but I think we'll catch up very fast. The way we on the governance standards, I think India has one of the best practices in the world on the corporate governance. So E and S aspects, of course, we have our own challenges. India is a different country, in a demography compared to the west part. But I think our because we had a philanthropic model of all past industries, because they were not showing. Now they will able to show to the world and investor. Yes, we have better environment. We are also environment conscious, and social aspects also are being taken care of, because SDG goals India also committed in as per the UN protocol. So I would say it is, we are on the half, some paths we already crossed. So we'll have more qualitative disclosure on the ESG aspects, and it will be appreciated. The discussed point earlier was whether it will be appreciated. Now it will be appreciated, and I think it will be factored into the I would say analyst call also. Mutual fund people also will sooner or later will have lot of panel discussion on the all the business channels on the ESG ratings of the company. And when SEBI has also come out with the consultation paper on ESG raters, that will also bring some discipline the way rating happens on the ESG disclosure.
Okay.
I'll limit my point here, and I'll take question further.
Okay, I will because Sudhakar is there, Rajinder is there, those who belong
Pavan,
to industry.
can I ask a question if you permit?
Yeah.
On the ESG only. So, in Regulation 30, recently we had not recently, some time back, we had the amendment, and it provides that now instead of BRR, we now need to publish BRSR. And the language of the regulation is such that BRR shall be discontinued after financial year 2021-22, which means after 31st March 2022, we cannot publish BRR. And it says with effect from financial year 22-23, we should start publishing BRSR. Now, technically, practically what we hear from different conferences and views from experts is that the BRSR is voluntary for financial year 22-23, but mandatory from financial year 23-24. Yes. So the only question was that next year when we start from April and we will start publishing annual report, do we need to mandatorily include BRSR, or we need to publish, we can continue or we can publish BRR, because language is very confusing.
Deep, you want to say anything in this?
No, I don't think it's confusing. I think it states very specifically that from the next annual report, you will publish BRSR.
So the language suggests, Pradeep, that the BRR shall be discontinued after financial year 2021-22. So financial year 21-22 complete on 31st March 2022.
Yeah.
So if I discontinue it on 31st March 22, then what do I publish after 1st April 22, and which will relate to the financial year 21-22?
No, whatever. No, 31st. No, so if you suppose, your all the annual reports get published in September, most of them, for example. So for September 2022, you will be publishing the accounts for the year till 31st March 2022. 31-2022. So that can contain BRR.
Okay. Just look at language, maybe they
But if you are going to publish for the next year, which will be publishing in 31st September 2023, which will be for the year 22-23, you will be publishing BRSR.
Okay. So the view I think that for the current year, which is 21-22, it is going to be BRR only. Mandatory is BRR, BRSR can be voluntary.
Voluntary, yes.
Yeah, but I think the language is as mentioned by Rajendra ji, the language is little bit confusing. It says during 21-22 BRR SR is for voluntary. So why it says during financial year 21-22?
I think, Pradeep, this is a one little bit gray point which people.
If there is a drafting issue, please send it to us. We'll see what we can do about it. If there is any.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Okay. I think intent is very clear. It is just the drafting, where we could have.
Okay. Now Sudhakar and the Rajendra and Ankit, those who are doing practice in, I just want quick 1 minute response from Sudhakar. How this will change the culture of the companies and the environment in India and a society at large? Do you think that ESG will change the face, and those who will not follow, they will be left behind?
No, certainly it will change. It has to change. It is bound to change. Whatever Pradeep has articulated, in fact, he has given a very laudable thinking. He has given it, and supplemented very well by Girish also. And according to me, it is a matter of time only that initially there will be some kind of hiccups will be there, some kind of difficulties will be there. The corporates may be hesitant. Initially, it will be mandatory, so you have to do it. And subsequently, what happened is one will enjoy doing those things. And once you start reaping the fruits, same is the case with corporate social responsibility. Initially, it was difficult, definitely. But over a period of time, we got accustomed to that, that 2% of the profits what we have to spend. Suppose, for example, tomorrow, if you will be asked for 3%, again, 1 or 2 years, there will be some kind of difficulty, but it will be. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that what are our responsibilities and what are our accountabilities when you are doing a business in the society. Okay. I'm sure that it is a matter of time.
Ankit, you are doing practice on ESG. What is your take on what the industry companies are doing?
I think, sir, while companies are aware of the fact that ESG is something which is about to stay, it's more about philosophy to how to manage your business. But still, because they have not been reading much about it, just hearing. Still, there is a lot of confusion. What is actually ESD? What they will need to do ESD? Is just publishing BRSR will be ESD? So there are different thoughts, but I've been talking to a lot of clients. There is a growing awareness of the fact that ESG is something which needs to be imbibed as a philosophy of the company.
Okay, okay. Now I have received various, we have more than 150 questions today. So I have to, I was trying to cover the question relating to subject. Now I'm taking subject on the basis of whatever is coming to me. Manoj, this is question relating to M&A and relating to LODR. Now, under section regulation 37 of LODR, considerable amount of time is involved in getting NOC from stock exchange for M&A transaction before filing with NCLT. However, the regulator have to give their no objection, that is ROC, RD, income tax, after the notice is served on them. A similar process can be followed for stock exchange also, and a representation be made with SEBI to dispense with the NOC to be obtained initially. What is your call?
Sir, this issue is quite old, and a pre-clearance from stock exchange SEBI is in prevalent for very long time. Yes, the companies, new companies act have a specific provision with respect to notice to regulators like ROC, RD, income tax, and sectoral regulator. But SEBI has made it additional requirement under regulation 37 of LODR that pre-clearance from stock exchange and SEBI should be taken before going to NCLT, which certainly takes a lot of time. And this issue has been discussed several times. We have also discussed sometimes on various forums, but no result has come. So I think SEBI want to control the M&A of listed companies, and that's why they are not relaxing.
Girish Joshi ji, there is a PERT chart when we are making any transaction. In the PERT chart, we want to see that what we can do together and what we can simultaneously, or what we can do after one activity. So the suggestion which has come, can't SEBI and stock exchange consider this and make it the permission when we file it after that, because both the things will together can run.
Yeah, I think that can be worked out. We'll again give this suggestion to SEBI that rather than sequential, something can work parallelly. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Rajendra, whether regulation 17(6)(e) is not applicable to managing director, as the word used for the limit of remuneration is executive director. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Whether regulation 17(6)(e) is not applicable to managing director, as the word used for the limit of remuneration is executive director.
It is applicable to managing director as well. It's very clear. It applies to managing director, executive director, whole-time director, whatever term we use.
So whatever name you call.
Yes, whatever name you call.
Okay. Anjali, you were, I think you are the last person who was silent. I'm asking this question to you. Whether to claim an exemption under regulation 15 of LODR from compliance of corporate governance requirement, whether both the threshold that is less than 25 crore net worth and less than 10 crore, or the compliance or fulfillment of one or two is enough.
Any one of the two, if the company is complying with fulfilling any of the two, it will have to comply with corporate governance provisions.
Anybody has a different view, or what is okay?
I think it said that, if I'm not wrong, it said that turnover of 10 crores and net worth of 25 crores. The word usually is and. So both conditions should be complied with, if I'm not wrong.
Any different view of Ankit, Amit?
I think rightly said, Sudhakar sir, it says end.
But Mr. Joshi can answer this better, how they are interpreting this provision.
No, we interpret both and together.
So you want to see both the things, 25 and 10 crore.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that is a one clarification, so people should not confuse. Ankit, if a private company has two directors and the same are subscriber of MOA as well as, if one of them dies, can the remaining director call a board meeting to appoint a new director to comply with minimum limit, or can he call a shareholder meeting? In that case, can the resolution be passed with one shareholder as a quorum? And what will be the status of legal heir of the deceased shareholder? Can they attend the meeting before the share transaction transmission is taking place?
Sir, I think 173 allows a director in such a situation to appoint another director, or he can call a board, shareholder meeting. It is but obvious shareholder meeting cannot be called with just one shareholder. There will not be any quorum. So there has to be two, but the board, the director itself has the right to appoint one more director just to fulfill the minimum quorum, and then they can take the proceedings ahead.
Okay. Pradeep and Joshi ji, there is a issues connected to reclassification and governance issue. Regulation 31A of LODR.
Yeah.
The regulation 31 of LODR through distinction has been attempted in definition section between promoter seeking reclassification and person related to the promoter seeking reclassification. However, no specific process for reclassification of person related to promoter seeking reclassification has been provided. What the company should do?
No,
Anjali,
sorry,
you can
Yeah. Sir, as per the regulation 31A, the persons related with promoters cannot be reclassified. In fact, we have had this discussion many a times with Pradeep as well while he was in the listing in this department, that there should be some situations or some cases wherein this kind of the persons related with the promoters should be allowed to be reclassified. For example, a married sister or a married daughter, those cases should be allowed. But otherwise, as per the plain reading of the law, a person related with the promoters cannot be reclassified.
no, then I will say I think that sort of application we are processing.
We are processing.
Yes.
Yeah, that is what I also understand. Anjali, I don't know why you have taken this view, because that will be very difficult view if that is emerging from the regulator side. I don't think there is any restriction. I'll agree with you.
There are restrictions. I don't know if exchange is allowing such cases. Nothing like it.
Yeah, we are allowing it.
Okay. Separately, you can.
Yeah, right. I'll discuss this. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is one related question with regard to the reclassification of promoter and promoter group inter se. If Girish can throw some light.
Yeah, tell ask.
Sir, as 13th of August 2021 has now mandated a classification of promoter and promoter group in the shareholding pattern. Now, there are companies which have got listed maybe in 90s or early 80s. So it's been a long time, and their promoter group list has undergone a significant change. Now, after 20-30 years, they have to classify whether who are promoter group. Now, first question is, what is the parameter on which they should decide who is promoter, who is not promoter? Number two, if somebody wants to make a reclassification from promoter to promoter group, is there any process which is required to be followed?
Yeah, Amit, this point had come. I think both exchanges had discussed with SEBI, okay, because this promoter group, where it has come, promoter group, because for disciplinary action, SEBI has said, no, don't take action against promoter group company, you take action against only promoter. So this point had come. So some people then said, no, because then we'll try to put so many people, because so far if company is not compliant, and one of the action point is to freeze the promoter demat account. So then when this promoter, then SEBI said, no, you take action only against promoter, don't take action against promoter group. And some companies had approached us, no, these are a few people promoter, balance are promoter group, but we had not classified them as a promoter group so far. So there is some process. I'll connect you to our compliance team, and I think it has been agreed by SEBI, and both exchanges are following this process. I'm not sure whether it is in public domain or not. But
yeah, I
that
was
we can
talking generally because this change, I think, happened only in the last quarter, no, December quarter only first time, and maybe September quarter also. Couple of companies have made such type of distinction and disclosures. Otherwise, it's in early phases. So these type of questions are emerging in the corporates in the discussion. So I thought I'll just check.
I think this, let's discuss with Girish Joshi. This is Manoj, in case of section 231, 232, where the regulator is required to send their report to NCLT, why it is not time bound so that report are sent seamless to court and NCLT? I think somebody is asking
suggestions. I think, sir, this question is, I think legally it is, there is a time bound process. Law clearly says that all the regulator must respond and give their objection or no objection, whatever, to the NCLT within 30 days from the receipt of the notice. So that timeline is already prescribed. Obviously, there has been delay from the regulator side, especially from the income tax department, because of the sometimes they think that the assessment has not happened in past, so giving no objection may not be sufficient, or sometimes the regulator asks queries at the let's say 25th day, and company could not respond by the 30th day, and that way they take further time from the NCLT bench. So timeline is already prescribed. It is only about the implementation, and obviously NCLT always give time to regulator whenever they ask for.
Okay, Sudhakar, if the company pays dividend within 5 days of declaration, in such case, whether the company is still required to transfer the dividend to a separate bank account before making payment?
Come back again, Pawan. I'm not able to hear properly.
The rule is that you have to, within the company pays dividend within 5 days of declaration. Even in such case, the company is still required to transfer the dividend to a separate bank account before making payment?
See that, technically, if you go strictly as per the law, yes, you have to. But suppose, for example, if you are having a private limited company and are a closely held public company, and you are having 2 shareholders or 7 shareholders, you can make the payment on the current account. If it is encashed by all the shareholders, there should not be an issue as such. But strictly, if you go as per the rule book, you have to have a separate bank account.
Okay. Ankit, whether incorporating loan among subsidiaries or among between holding and subsidiary or vice versa tantamount to an RPT?
Yes.
Okay. Manoj, is the transaction under the scheme of amalgamation will fall with material RPT?
No, and there is no restriction even for the related parties to participate in the board meeting where merger acquisitions are being considered. For that, MCA has specifically issued one clarification in the year 2014.
Okay.
Manoj, issue is that perhaps because SEBI has not came out with the clarification, and issue comes in 23.4, whether it will fall in the ambit of material related party transaction or not. I understand MCA has given a clarification, right? But that is under the Companies Act only.
If you see, practically all the listed companies are in there.
I think Girishji can supplement.
I think this is a technical point. Let's
it can have very big implications if related parties are not allowed to participate. So MCA has clarified that it will not be considered to be a related party transaction, and directors are not debarred from participating. So that is by MCA.
I completely agree with the Manoj view. I agree with the Manoj view because the larger and better transparent platform is provided in case of merger transaction, and that is separately regulated. So I don't think that would be required. But I think
even the MCA, SEBI master circular, which is updated, it has a specific provision. If there is a increase in the holding of the promoter group, then there is a requirement of approval from majority of minority. So those protections are already made by SEBI, but they have not restricted the participation as a related party.
Okay, now the rapid round will start because we have so many queries. So rapid round means that there's no counter question, only that person to whom I'm asking, he'll give answer and very crisp. Sudhakar, for how many years the company has to keep recording of the proceedings of the board committee meeting?
They have to be kept only till the next audit, completion of the next audit only.
Okay. Manoj, what is the view of panelists of timing of first entry of information of SDD and closure of trading window, especially in M&A transaction?
In case of M&A transaction, there is no requirement of public notice of closure of trading window. That is only for the persons who are concerned with the transaction, and those will for them it is unpublished price sensitive information, and they should not trade in the shares.
Okay. Ankit, what is the ordinary course of business in section 185? Ankit?
Sir, I think he's on a call.
It's not a rapid round question. He needs to define it. It's not a rapid round question.
Okay, Manoj, Madan sir, you are here. I have a question for you. Once a notification issued, after which the section with respect to which notification is issued get amended completely. How to read the notification as the section and subsection quoted in the notification get renumbered in the amendment?
It's not easy to, first of all, I'm not ready to agreeable what is written in this particular question. You send the notification to me, I'll interpret it and tell you what is there, what is the meaning of that.
So as an advocate, how you are reading? Somebody is asking this question because it's a notification and everything renumbered.
Let the notification be there in front of me. I'll read and interpret and apply.
Okay, so this is the advocate answer. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Amit, should the share application received by Nidhi company be deposited in a separate bank account?
Not required.
Not required. Okay. Anjali, what happens to the unsubscribed portion of right issue in listed company? Will they lapse or company can issue them to anyone by passing board resolution?
The person should have applied for the rights issue either by way of renunciation or non-renunciation. He should be a original shareholder. Otherwise, the unsubscribed portion cannot be given to anybody else.
No, but 62(1)(a) gives the power to dispose of.
Right, board can decide.
Board can dispose.
No.
Yeah, let's see. I agree with Anjali.
Yeah.
No. That is listed entity. We are talking about not talking about a listed entity. We are talking about unlisted entity.
I think it's a question about listed entity.
The question pertained to listed company.
I have asked listed company question.
Yeah.
Okay. Ankit, is issue of letter of comfort by holding company for loan availed by subsidiary and RPT, because a letter of comfort obligation is not on the holding company in case of default by subsidiary.
So if it's RPT under LODR provides for transfer of resource or obligation. So if there is an obligation, then it is being transferred by way of my letter of comfort. I think then it would be a related party. Otherwise, I don't think
For
it should be.
It will be. For unlisted entity, it will not.
No, for Listco, Amit, if he is giving letter of comfort and there is no obligation being undertaken.
Depends on the language.
Language of the.
So as per the question, no obligation is being undertaken.
Okay. Manoj, in case of merger of wholly owned subsidiary with holding company, all the directors are interested in how it can be approved in the board meeting.
As we have already discussed, it is not considered to be a related party transaction. So all the board member can participate.
So merger is not, because anything which is equally distributing to all, it's not.
Obviously, it is already holding wholly on subsidiary, so it is there is no consideration involved here. That is another part, but otherwise also MCA has clarified it.
Sudhakar, this is a question related to your CA knowledge. In February 2021, definition of small company was changed to section 285, but no corresponding change in CARO. So if a company falls into new definition of small company, but having borrowing over 1 crore, is CARO applicable?
If it is prior to the closure of the financial year, yes, CARA is applicable to that.
Any different view, Amit, Ankit?
Yeah, it is definitely applicable.
But okay.
Not on CARO, but in this budget speech, FM has said something about the small companies and limits to be raised as far as the paid up capital and turnover is concerned. And I fail to understand why was it part of the budget speech, because in Companies Act, there is already enabling provision under section 2, subsection 85. So there is no need of any budget speech, because simply the government has to amend the rules, that's all.
That was just a speech, not an amendment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Ankit, there are companies owned by government or government company which are defunct and not filed any return for many years. Is there any procedure to close these companies without going to the necessity of filing updated return? The strike of provision.
In striking of companies, now they've changed the provision and they only ask for the annual returns only till the year the company was in business. If no operations have been there for last so many years, if you go for striking off, the ROC will not ask for the returns for all the years.
Yes, in Rule 4.2 is there, and in addition, the DP has came out with the separate guidelines for closure of these government companies also.
Okay.
Provided they are not listed. Provided they are not listed.
Provided
Yes, sir, definitely. Otherwise, they cannot go for
Yes,
strike off.
the company has got in principle approval for migrating from SME platform to BSC to main board of BSC with effect from 7th January 2022, and also get trading approval with effect from 13th January. The quarterly compliance for the quarter ended on December 2021 are also required to be complied by our company, which are specifically applicable to main board listed company like quarterly financial, shareholding pattern, and corporate governance report. So
Yes.
Yes, but they have got listed. I have to comply.
Rajinder, the question on ESOP. Okay. Does any change or amendment in ESOP scheme require shareholders approval or board approval is sufficient?
If the change relate to any of the matter which is stated in the explanatory statement, then the amendment can be done only with the approval of the shareholder. But if the changes are ancillary on other matter which are the prerogative of ESOP compensation committee, then the change can be done with the committee or the board approval.
Okay. And ESOP is a private contract between employer and employee, whether it can be cancelled by both the party?
Two aspects. If the cancellation is by operation of law, say for example, resignation, termination, etc., then as per the policy. But if the company decide to withdraw the contract and pay some consideration, then Regulations Companies Act section 68 or the buyback regulation also kicks in, that provide that the ESOP is a specified security. So that cancellation or buyback can be done only with the buyback regulation compliance. Of course, now in the BSES also there is a provision that if the company want to buy back the stock option, then they need to have a provision that they stick. Okay. So buyback regulation plus BSES regulation need to be complied with.
So as per section 118 of the Act and Secretary Standard, minutes should be entered in the minutes book within 30 days. What is the meaning of entered here when it will be concluded that the minutes has been entered in the minutes book?
Entered in the minutes book means you have to finalize the minutes and you have to take the print on the minute sheets also. Only thing is the signature part can be at the next board meeting. Whenever the regulator comes and when he asks you that, have you entered the minutes within 30 days, you should be in a position to show them the printed minute sheets. If it is not done, it is a non-compliance.
Okay. Manoj, one closely held private company wants to dispose of one of its business unit to another related private company for a very consideration, which is proposed to be done by way of entering into business transfer agreement, whereby the entire undertaking of the business unit will be transferred and based with the other private company on a slump sale. Kindly clarify whether there is a need of approach to NCLT or it's enough member of both the company pass a special resolution at the board meeting.
So the passing of resolution is totally dependent on the size of that undertaking. But this transaction is a private transaction. BTAs are not subject to approval of NCLT. Slump sale or business transfer agreements can be done privately between two parties. So depending upon the size of the undertaking, there may be a requirement of approval from the shareholders, which is basically the 20% if the undertaking value is more than 20% of the total assets of the company.
Okay. Gupta sir, this is one suggestion, but I just want to take your view. Somebody is asking, if ROC is only the repository of document, what is the need of approval for various e-form, like various form which we are filing? What is the need of approval by the regulator when the company is independently increasing appropriate fees to avoid the delay in the approval and let all the forms be made STP? This is one question. Second is, in case of
Pawan, I missed the first part of your question. So because
this is forget this question, I'm coming out to the next question, which is most better.
Yeah.
In case of penalty which are well defined in the Act, whether it's a SEBI or in the company law, what is the need for personal hearing by RD or other authorities or SEBI, and why it cannot be done online on the basis of principal basis?
I think you are forgetting one basic fact, that the constitution of this country and judicial system of this country, there is one word, that is natural justice. Now, the natural justice is the process by which I got to convince the person that you have committed an act which is subject to penalty. If it is built in the system where there is no hearing, nothing, then it is very good. But the problem is, it is a question of natural justice.
Madan, you have any view?
I just want to give the view of the court, which happened in one of my cases yesterday only.
Yeah.
The judge says simply by issuing a show cause notice means the principles of natural justice have been complied with. And that was really not acceptable to me at all. Principle of natural justice means you issue the notice, or you hear the other party has filed a reply, rejoinder, or any representation. You need to consider that, and after that you need to give a reasoned decision. Only then the principles of natural justice have been followed.
I think, Madan, your question is on a higher footing. The person is asking that everything is defined. Why can't we do this? Okay, that's a separate part. Sudhakar, whether
That's why I've written a message also today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Sudhakar, whether it's a rapid round, no discussion, no overlapping question. I'm the final authority. Okay. Well, Sudhakar, whether a private company can use premium on issue of shares for objects prescribed in prospectus, like for working capital, business expansion, repayment of debt. Section 52 prohibits application of premium for any purpose other than permitted under Section 52(2). Anybody?
Sir, I can answer.
Give it.
Sir, this concept is highly misunderstood rather. Money loses the color as soon as it is received by the company. There is no restriction on usage of money received towards the securities premium. So securities premium can very well be used towards the working capital, towards the capex, towards the business expansion, towards the repayment of debt. See, why there is a misunderstanding? Because people are replacing it with the bank account. See, what entry we are doing in receiving the securities premium: bank account debit, securities premium account credit, and share capital account credit. So your share premium account is credited, and Section 52 only regulates the debit of securities premium account, nothing else. It does not stop you from using that money. So there is no restriction.
Okay. Ankit, as per deposit rule.
Just to add, absolutely rightly explained by Amit, just to add, what Section 52 covers is usage of securities premium account. So once, it's not about the security premium monies. So therefore, utilization of money has to be distinguished from the account. The whole purpose is, how do you treat the account once it is capitalized in the books? That's the issue here, which Section 52 addresses.
Okay.
Right.
What I gather from here is there is a distinction between account and amount.
Right.
Yeah, account and amount, that's a one question. Okay, Ankit, as per deposit rules, any advance for supply of goods or provision of service must be appropriated against supply of goods or provision of service within the period of 365 days from the date of acceptance of such advance. What is the meaning of appropriated? Can this be explained by way of an example?
I'll take. I think Ankit is.
Anybody can take. Joe.
Appropriation is what? Adjustment, suppose if you are received the money as an advance. You are appropriating the advance against the transaction. So you are just keep adjusting that money against the transaction. That is appropriation.
Yeah, just to supplement what Sudhakar sir has mentioned, appropriation, this provision was there in the 56 Act also. What was the problem? That there were practices, that there were malpractices that companies were using and receiving the money without putting them into any basket. The appropriation was not done. So any money which you have received has to be appropriated towards what purpose you have received.
What is that purpose?
Yeah. So as soon as you are appropriating it towards the advance for supply of goods, it is appropriation. Whether your supply is completed in 365 days or not, it has nothing to do with that.
Okay. Gupta sir, SEBI-wide circular dated August 13, 21 mandated for classification of promoter and promoter group in the shareholding pattern. How such segregation has to be done, especially for the company which came out the public issue long back? What is the process of reclassification of promoter and promoter group? Please answer now. No, don't give the process. Just this question that it's long time because this issue is coming. I was a part with you, but now I'm not taking part and I've sold my shares, but my name is coming there. So as a policy thing, what is your suggestion?
I would say you have saved me from the trouble by saying that you do not want to know the procedure, because I would say I am totally illiterate in the procedure. But I would say, yes, I agree this is a problem. And last year, one of my friend had this problem. Then I told him to approach SEBI and he could get the things done from the SEBI, saying that this is the issue. The issue is very clear that I cannot say that regulator is wrong or right, because you cannot make regulation depending upon person to person. So there is a regulation, and if there is a problem in implementation, that the regulator, in my opinion, is very open-minded and they can take care and do something. And if I remember correctly, one of the case I had referred to, Girish also in BSc, and it was solved.
Okay, okay. Madan sir, SFIO, is there any limit of amount for requesting an inquiry by SFIO into company's affair in reference to section 210 and 212?
As the name suggests, serious fraud investigation office. So first word is serious. Now what is serious? It account depends on the facts and circumstances and the way the scams are happening and the number of amount is increasing in each scam. This word serious is amount of the serious offense is going increasing day by day. There is no benchmark for this. Earlier it used to be maybe tens of crores, then it was hundreds of crores, and today is going to be thousands of crores. So there is no benchmark.
Okay.
Ankit. On the lighter note, if it goes to SFIO, it becomes serious.
Serious.
So no, this is right. Practically, it is happening. If the SFIO inquiry is going on, it means something wrong has happened in the company.
It's totally up to the government to decide whether the quantum is not there. Seriousness is to be looked into.
Okay, Ankit, is the resolution passed by the committee of board under section 179 required to be filed with ROC?
No.
Any different view? Okay. Anjali, should share under right issue be issued within 60 days of receipt of share application money? The said period is specified only under section 42 regarding private placement.
Sir, under the listing, under the ICPR regulations, no specific period has been mandated, but in a rights issue, it is done on a very fast track mode because we need to do the basis of allotment.
Also, there is a provision.
So just to add,
under deposit rules, there is a provision of 60 days.
Rule 21C, if you don't allot within 60 days, then within next 15 days, it will be treated. If it is not refunded, then it will be treated as a deposit.
Okay.
So 60 days becomes important from that perspective.
Sudha, there's a one question on the related to CSR. Okay. The point is, can beautification of railway station, metro station with painting and installing heritage and cultural idols can be eligible activity under CSR?
It can be.
It can be.
That heritage and culture, the words what you have used, it is covered under Schedule 7 and it can be.
Okay. Okay.
On the face of it, of course, we have to see the details and all subsequently. But on the face of it, yes, it can be covered under Schedule 7.
Okay, Anjali, under the revised preferential issue consideration other than shares, transaction have been restricted only to share swap. In our view, this will lead to a very narrow outlook. In many cases, the allotee don't have sufficient cash to subscribe to the preferential issue, but have certain assets which are beneficial to the company. This is strategic move and used to be win-win situation of both the company as well as the allottees. Is there any things you have view? And Girishji? I think Girish is the right person. Anjali can.
No, miss, this regulation was there earlier, but I think SEBI has observed in the past that it was grossly misused by the promoters because they will bring anything as a consideration other than cash, and they say these are it was an example of some livestock and some agriculture item, and they will do valuation mind-boggling, and promoter will just issue shares. So it was grossly misused. That's why naturally when something is misused, then people blame SEBI. Naturally, this has to be brought under control. So,
sir, in that case, sweat equity should also be restricted because you cannot have tangible value addition every time.
Gupta sir, your investor prospect, which this question has come.
See, I tell you, I was part of the committee which rewrote the preferential issue rules, though I will say that this is what Girish has said is correct, because to stop the misuse. As far as the ESOP is concerned, it or sweat equity could be misused, but then the sweat equity is not given to the promoter. See, the problem is that when I am the person who is in control and I am giving sweets to myself and depriving all of you from taking any sweet, that is the problem.
Okay. Savitri, as per latest SEBI regulation circular, even transmission can now happen only in demat mode. For Indian shareholder, the position is simplified, but for foreign shareholder and the nominee also being foreign citizen who don't have an Indian PAN and demat in India, this provision may be difficult to comply with and may lead to addition to IPF shares.
So actually, Pawan, in terms of SEBI circular of 2008, any person dealing in securities is required to have a PAN number. However, in case of foreign shareholders, this provision was relaxed. Having said that, with respect to the recent amendment to LODR, where you're only required to give shares, whether for transmission, transposition, or otherwise duplicate shares and everything only in demat form, unless and until you have a demat account, you cannot get the shares. Now, to open the demat account, yes, of course, the depositories will insist on it because the 6 KYC rule, which has been brought out by SEBI with respect to physical shares, that is the circular of SEBI of 3rd of November 2021, read with 14 December 2021 circular, you are required to have the PAN number. Now there has been no relaxation given. Now, actually what you just mentioned about a nominee also being a foreign citizen, there's another angle of RBI provisions. It can only be on non-repatriation basis and not on repatriation basis unless the original shares were on repatriation basis. So that additional complexity is also brought in. Having said that, yes, if it is a plain and simple case of a foreign shareholder wanting to transfer it once again to another family member, not wanting to take the nomination, probably something more will have to be considered, because it might just be more like a transitionary provision and they may not want to hold the shares at all. But having said that, as we speak today, yes, it has to be only in demat.
Okay, Madan sir. GP Madan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have signed transfer deed with physical share certificate, but could not lodge with the company for transfer. Now, how to have these shares transferred in my name?
Then he is a transferor, no?
I have signed transfer deed with physical share certificate, but could not lodge for transfer. I am a transferee. And
you are a transferee.
Yeah, but I have not lodged. Now, I have signed transfer with physical share certificate, but could not lodge within the company for transfer. Now, how to have these shares transferred in my name?
But what is the issue then? Send it to the company. If company refuses, file an application with your NCLT under 5859. You will get the relief. No issues.
Okay. So this is one question related to secretary standard type. If quorum is not present in EGM, the same shall be adjourned, and in the adjourned meeting also quorum is not present. The remaining members shall be the quorum. It is a law. In that case, if only one person is present in the meeting, can the resolution not be passed with one person?
Because you can't have one-person meeting. At least two people should be there for a meeting. Otherwise, you have to go and get the permission of NCLT to have a one-person meeting. Otherwise, say even if it is there, the minimum quorum requirement may not be there, but 2 persons should be there for a meeting.
So to rest these issues for
I think our standard and guidance note provides for this.
Correct.
I would have a counter question.
Yeah.
Are we trying to learn the new tricks of how to not do good governance?
No, that's not cake. Okay. Savitri, there is one case related because my company became non-compliant, referred to CIRP and got suspended. My and promoter group demat shares were frozen, including that of 86-year-old mother. She wants to distribute her asset, including shares in her demat account, to her children, but it is not able to do so because of freezing. How to resolve the situation?
So if it is a case of freezing because of some violation, freezing can only happen with respect to promoter group shares, promoter and promoter group shares. So is this person a part of the promoter or promoter group? If yes, until you have made good the default, your shares will remain frozen only. And in any case, when the share is frozen, the depositories will have a block in terms of debit and credit, and therefore you will not be able to do it at all.
Okay. Sudhakar, in case the independent director who has appointed for first term could not clear the proficiency test within the prescribed time, what is the consequences?
He will lose his independence. So he will not be qualified to continue as an independent director.
Okay.
I think government has given the relaxation now. After the expiry of the term, he can apply for, maybe by paying additional money, he will get the relaxation. That provision is
talking about the proficiency test, not about the renewal.
In the lighter vein, we should question the NRC for selecting such a director.
Okay, so the one CA question: a company has appointed CFO, but provision of section 203 not applicable to it. Whether such CFO will be deemed to be KMP, since CFO fall under the definition of KMP under section 251.
See, KMP is to be appointed by the board of directors under 203 by way of a board resolution at the meeting. By merely designating a person as a CFO or company secretary or CEO, they will not become KMPs by default.
Okay.
But here also there are another school of thought is there. Some people say no, by definition, if the KMP is there like that, I don't agree with that.
Okay, Rajendra, when a company voluntarily constituted audit or NRC committee, will such a company be necessarily required to comply with provision of 177 and 178? It's a voluntary.
It's voluntary, then it doesn't have to comply with because there is no mandate.
No, but my view is different. If something is not applicable to you and you want to do this, so what the people are doing? They want to take advantage of good thing from that, and they don't want to follow the bad part. So if you are, agar you have taken something, then you have to follow in respect. That is a
governance point of view, no second order problem. Yes, Sudha.
Well, there may be a difficult, say for example, a private limited company wants to constitute an audit committee. If it has to comply with 177, you have to have independent directors. The private company may not have independent directors, so it will not be able to comply with that.
Let's put it like this: all other provisions shall apply mutatis mutandis to this company.
This should be the governance.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I was an independent director of an unlisted company, and I have realized that how these people, the one part of promoter misused the independent director. They wanted to misuse, but we have not allowed. Okay, but I realized that this voluntary thing is so harmful. You want to take advantage and you don't want to follow. So the point is, everybody should follow this. So
governance-wise, no second thought. I endorse and I fully agree with you. But we are talking about the statutory provision and its interpretation. So I'm saying statutorily is not mandatory and company cannot be charged for non-compliance. It is voluntary. But yes, I fully agree with you. It has to be followed in letter and spirit, and companies should follow.
Okay.
I fully agree.
अभी क्या हो रहा है पवन जी? I agree with जी. अभी later part में ना जो questions अब आ रहे हैं वो आ रहे हैं सारे non-compliance और non-governance.
Okay. So friends, we had.
I want to just bring one particular submission I want to make. There was a question earlier that about the appointment of independent director for a second term. Is it necessary to be appointed before the first term expires, or there can be a break? I'm not going to discuss about this issue, but only my submission to all the participants for the benefit of them is, this issue has very clearly discussed in the guidance note with the rationale and everything. Just to say that the second term appointment is that power is not there with the board, it is only with the shareholders. Why it is so and all, what is the logic, what is the rationale, what is the law? In the guidance note for the independent directors, very amply it has been discussed and clarified. I thought I will make this submission to all of them. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And I would say that through your medium, please circulate it to all the company secretaries who are still bent upon appointing them as an additional director and taking prospective approval, which is not correct.
Okay. So, sir, I will give one before closing this. We received 80 questions before the program, and I think we have received 48 questions just now. So, except few questions which were very long, and if I'm seeing the full page question which people have sent, we have not covered, but we will give answer to them later on. So, my thanks to all. Before closing this 75th webinar, I'm giving 1 minute to all the participants, all the panelists, 1 minute or less than 1 minute, that what message you want to give, or what is your take on all these questions and things, how the corporate should work now, what are the things, regulator is very active, they are active, what is your take on to do this? This clear and loud message should go to the industry. Rajendra, I will start with you.
Okay. I would recommend that when we study the law or when you practice the law, follow the natural interpretation and don't try to take the technical interpretation unless those meet with the standards of the government. Many a time we unnecessarily puzzle ourselves with the technical interpretation and start evaluating how it should be done and can it be done or not.
Okay, Manoj.
I think, as you have said, regulator is very proactive and regularly changing the law based on the industry feedback, professional feedback. So whenever we feel there is a problem in the regulation, we should approach regulators, and I think most of the time we will get some solution.
The kind of arduous responsibilities which have been entrusted upon the directors and KMPs, we should initiate a kind of compliance culture in the organization, and we also do the advocacy of compliance in the organization.
Anjali.
Regulator is proactive. We as compliance officers have to be super proactive. And as Mr. Gupta said, for one of the cases, like he had some problem and he referred to SEBI and the problem got resolved. So regulator is open to resolving the problems as well. So instead of taking wrong steps, it's better to approach the regulator.
Gupta sir, you will have last word. Okay, so please, okay, Madan sir.
While implementing any law, please always have out of the box thinking approach. Ask your mind, ask your heart. If it's the interest of the stakeholders, go ahead. Nobody can touch you.
Okay, Amit.
Amit, please switch on your video.
No, he will not. Amit, at last you can switch on your video. Amit.
So I'll say corporate should start taking, and the other professional should start taking the stance, because the problem more we face because the corporates or the professionals are not taking the stand, and the change in mindset definitely is required, as all have echoed. The proactive approach from the regulator, artificial intelligence and whatnot, we can't live in the same world what we have been living in the past 5 decades. There is a definite need for change.
Okay. Savitri.
Sure. I would say corporate governance is of paramount importance in evolving environment, which is especially the regulatory environment is changing considerably. It is essential to look at benchmarking. It is essential to learn from practices which are followed by others, not just in India, but even internationally. And I would say that I'm pretty encouraged to see the level of interaction at these programs. And the kind of questions that have been asked definitely shows a very in-depth analysis which has been done, which is certainly networking and raising these kind of questions is what would raise the bar.
Ankit.
I think, sir, taking with what Manmohan Juneja said, if ministry is working on systems where defaults will be tracked automatically and adjudication provisions will be, notices will be sent automated, then it's for the unlisted companies to be more careful and vigilant of the compliance environment, because regulator, as both SEBI and MCA are considering regularly taking steps to enforce compliance. So for them, it's much more important to understand the importance of compliance. Listed companies are far more better compliant as opposed to unlisted companies.
Joshi ji.
So I'll put in two parts. See, everyone has said yes. We have to follow the law in spirit, not by letter. So that is one thing. And we say whenever in doubt, you do the disclosure. So there is no problem later on. So regulator will not catch why you not disclose. But more important aspect is the process, because SEBI comes out with so many times consultation paper. And we have observed very few feedbacks come. Feedback comes either from the merchant banker or the lawyer. But the practitioner, and I would say the companies are not giving feedback. Actually, they are facing the practical problem. Then laws are drafted. Then people say, no, the SEBI has not applied, man, the stock exchange not taken proper view. So my view as a process, any consultation paper comes from SEBI, please look at, critically evaluate, give your comments and feedback. I can share internally, SEBI looks at all these comments very seriously and they go by that way. So at least later on we don't face all this problem. That is my view as a process. So please look at all consultation paper very thoroughly and give your feedback.
Okay. Gupta sir, you are the last, but PK has just now finished. So you speak. If PK join, we will take his view. Otherwise, your last word.
Okay. So I will take a little bit more time, but I will touch everything possible. First, my request goes out to CS community that when you draft the resolution, draft in such a way that the reader can understand it. Do not use the language which was used by the British, copy, paste, and make sentences which runs into half page or 2 pages. Make it crisp and clear to understand. I have seen many resolutions for the issue of equity or issue of capital, where you put everything that is possible, whereas your intention would have been to issue warrants, or where your intention has been to issue things. I agree that you want a flexibility, but it should not be so much flexibility that it becomes water. That is one part. The second part will be, it will be my request to the companies and all the company secretaries that you receive your proxy advisory report either by my company or by some other company or by any other company. Please circulate it to the board so that the board members should know what is the opinion of third independent party about what is happening in the company. Third is that I find that although CS is a KMP, but probably CS has the lowest voice in the entire system. You got to work on an issue where you can make CS as powerful as it sounds. Don't reduce it to just a stenographer writing what chairman dictates. I have interacted with a couple of company secretaries. They say, sir, we were objecting to this resolution, but this came. The fourth is this. Last year, we issued about 190 addendums. That means 190 companies studied our report. They had some issues on those reports. They wanted to talk to us and they wanted their point of view to be raised to the investors. I would request that every company, whether it is my company or other company, every corporate receiving the report should read the report and raise the issue. Then only there will be transparency, then will be independent. Because if you do not question me, I will become arrogant. And I don't want any of the service providers should become arrogant. And lastly, I would say, please ensure, as somebody said, that implement the law with the spirit. Don't tear the hairs or don't split the hairs. As PNB Housing Finance decided to pass the valuation report, the pricing report of the ICDR as a valuation report under Companies Act, which is not the case. But they had fought till SAT and said that this is a valuation report. So don't try to do all these fancy things.
Okay, thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you very much. I know PK has just finished his board meeting.
I think, sir, he has joined.
He has joined.
Tata Steel has given 45% growth. That is a congratulations to you. It's
Thank you.
PSI.
All the best, PK.
Thank you, sir.
PK, because Gupta ji was the last person, we have given 1 minute to everybody that what message you want to give to the industry. So they should follow and they should take India to the new height in the corporate things and anything in business.
Thank you, Pawan. If I were to give a message in 1 minute, and I know that we have all our colleagues on the platform. So I guess ESG is certainly becoming the mainstream. So as company secretaries and conscience keepers of the board and advising management, interacting with stakeholders, whether it is regulators, investors, policymakers, or professional bodies or even industry bodies, I think it's time that we actually learn much of the contemporary things that are out there, particularly in terms of reporting, because I think we've always kind of been signatories to financial reports. So we are very well versed with a balance sheet and a profit and loss account and a cash flow statement. But now the future of reporting is going to look very different. It's not just going to be financial statements, but I think the non-financial metrics becomes far more important. And I think we need to relearn some of these things. And I think we have a huge opportunity to, huge opportunity with us to become far more holistic as professionals to, advise the board and also guide the management in preparing the reports and the proxy statements that go out to the investors and of course to the other stakeholders. And I think as company secretaries, we are quite well equipped now, because at the end of the day, we are conscience keepers of the board. We take care of the governance, and of course, all of the disclosures and reporting go almost under our kind of vigil. So my own request and submission is that we should probably become much better in this and take this opportunity so that we really become. We set standards, and of course, SEBI has been in the forefront as a regulator to support this. And I think industry is also kind of very supportive. So we should, I think, take this opportunity and become better.
Thank you, PK. Thank you very much to all our panelists, and thank you all participants. Still, we have crossed half an hour and you are there. Friends, today's program was very tough, because when we invited various people, and when I came to know that today is the meeting and various committee meeting they have to do, so I have to prepare this chart of every speaker, when he will join, when he will come back, when he will logged in. Okay. And according to the subject, I have to select the topic. So my job was very tough. I hope I have tried my best to.
But you have passed with the flying colors.
Okay. Because just now Priya madam has told me that her meeting is over, board meeting, can I join? So I told her if you can, but she's completing some responsibilities. So today we have seen this. So thank you very much, friends. We have tried to answer all your questions, but we will continue some questions which have recently come that we will give reply. So Ankit and Shivam will take responsibility and they will reply to you, whatever you are asking. Then some few questions are very interesting and I'll pass on to them. Now what we will do, all the question and answer which we have created and all the issues which are the gray in some gray areas are there, we will compile. I'll share with all of you. You can add your point and we'll pass on to MCA and we'll pass on to the ministry and stock exchange also. So they will realize that industry is doing, but there is some confusion. So like Pradeep has said, Mr. Jeevan has said, and Sundareshan sir has said, they all are always ready, and MCA is also not becoming changed now, and they are also ready. So we will do this. The point is, in place of talking every time that what will happen to the adjourned meeting, when I was a student, I'm reading this. We are studying since so long that 7 days notice mean what? 7 days will include this on that. But now because of standard, we have now standardized things and we are doing, and that's why we are doing something great new things. Today ESGs you are talking because your governance has taken place. So when the ESG will come, and Pradeep has rightly and very nicely pointed out, and PK has added this, ESG is the future. We must understand and we should take part. And whatever things are there, we should try to inculcate it. Friends, this journey will continue. We have completed 75th webinar and we will do in July that 100th webinar. Okay, the central webinar. And I'll request all my friends, all these people who have participated, who have given knowledge, they please join this. We will come out with very different type of program and we'll take your view and suggestions. Thank you very much to all. Thanks to all participants. And thank you. The next webinar on 11th, that is a Friday, that is 76th webinar, is on insolvency. An entire insolvency board member they are coming, including the present officiating chairman. He will come. And we are launching our insolvency book, which is a new updation. It is a very innovative book we have come out with case law and the law at one place. And that we will release, like we have released today, this our Companies Act. And in token of our gratitude towards all these speakers, we will send this copy to all the people through courier tomorrow or day after tomorrow, as soon as we will receive the copy. And after the next Friday, we are doing program on the Data Protection Act. And Pawan Duggal, who is the one of the leading authority in India, he will be the speaker. And we are doing tie-up with him for doing the cyber law related things. And we will organize this program. So thank you all. Thank you very much. And thanks to all participants. Still at 7:30, we are more than 100 people sitting here. Thank you very much. Thank you.